Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your co-host, Mr. Dave, and I'm here with my co-host, MK Rio, and also, guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Lord Brady's back. Say hi, folks.
What's up, everyone?
Welcome everybody. This is episode 40 and we have a quite a topic to discuss today. Apparently from what I heard is Final Kombat happened and there was a lot of disasters, a lot of stuff going on during the tournament with either the venue, the gameplay, how the players felt regarding, how things were being run and the stream and all that. Now, I didn't watch the tournament, so I can't verify any of this, but I was getting some messages from other people saying, hey man, the game's looking pretty bad right now. It's got, not that big numbers. There's a lot of issues with the stream. There's like mirror matches on the stream with characters, this and that. Dave, would you like to comment on this?
Well, actually, let's just be clear with our audience. As we're recording right now, the event is still going on. It has nothing to do with the game that what people are discussing. It has to do with the fact that, like, the venue is apparently, how do I say this? Let's just say in a substandard manner, and apparently a piece of ceiling fell on somebody's head. We're not going to discuss in this podcast. We're not going to discuss the results, but apparently, like, they interrupted SonicFox's and Connie's match, and made him replay it. I've never seen SonicFox this mad ever on Twitter as I'm reading his tweets. Thank you to Cherney for pointing some of these tweets out, but it's pretty hilarious. SonicFox said he's done with MK1 and all the events related to MK1. So obviously I'm not there, but I've never seen SonicFox this mad. But apparently it's the overall experience of the streaming has not been handled properly, and apparently even Ketchup and Mustard have said stuff, have even complained about the event. So I'm not gonna get into like the specifics of why this is the way it is, but I would guess that, look, man, if you're gonna hold an event in Latin America, I think you should probably do it in Brazil, because I think Brazil is, from what I've seen, has the best crowd, has the best atmosphere, has the most dedicated Mortal Kombat fans. Again, with all due respect to all the other Latin American countries, I don't know why they didn't host. I don't know why WB/NRS didn't host the Final Kombat in that country, because again, there was a tournament in Brazil and it looked amazing. The crowd was into it. No issues with the venue. So I think this is a disaster for WB/NRS for very obvious reasons. Tom, what say you?
I say no one says the Super Bowl was head in a bad menu because the Super Bowl doesn't happen because people care about these things. Nobody cares about fighting games, including the people that run the events. Period. These tournaments are all for show. And Warner Brothers or NetherRealm, I should say, they're ahead of the curve. They are the ones who realize we can put out, regardless of what Dave says about the gameplay, as a whole, as a product, a garbage product for 2 games and sell like 1 billion copies. Warner Brothers and NetherRealm truly believe they can do whatever they want and the next game will keep selling. This is no surprise to me, because when you have a corporation and multiple companies, especially the parent company and the NetherRealm, who both feel they can do whatever they want and they'll still make money, they will continue to do so. What this is, and it doesn't surprise me. Look, Warner Brothers didn't want this tournament. NetherRealm didn't want this tournament. So it doesn't surprise, and anyone that thinks, I hear some people in the chat, they were talking about how much money is on the line and this and that. Dude, if you ever think that in NetherRealm games, especially, there's a path to any money, let this be a wake-up call. I mean, they don't want to keep doing these tournaments. It's obvious. NetherRealm and Warner Brothers don't want to keep doing a Pro Series. They don't see a need to. Why? Their games are going to sell regardless. They can put out subpar products. You'll still buy them. Then you'll have the people, I'll name them, Aquaman, Honeybee, Ketchup and Mustard, Tweety, I love you, you did well, Destroyer, I still love you. These kind of people. True Underdog, Super. It's so good when you make money, you don't give a fuck what these people say anymore. And I used to care because I needed the FGC, and now that I don't need it, I can do what I want. Now that I'm successful. These people will continue to praise the product until the wheels fall off and then say, oh, the first year in the lobbies and oh, yeah, we'll say it's a problem now. They didn't say shit during the first year. Foxy Grandpa, he's in there too. Everyone that talks about how bad the product is are doomers, etc. It cannot be more obvious that Mortal Kombat has become just something to slap out there, make some quick money, and then make another one now. Like the game as a product is still not where it needs to be. You had Roy Archon last week, every excuse in the world as to why Blob, just the bare basic things. Dave did a great job, as did Rio, of arguing like why the basics aren't even in the game. And it's really come to the point where like, then they charge you for an expansion when the original game wasn't even done. Like and then they do a pro series like, oh yeah, plenty of cut. When the leaker said the game was done, and then the NRS community was unwilling to accept the reality that the game was done because of poor sales on the expansion. The game sold well, but the expansion did not. There are two things can be true. And NRS, as soon as the leaker did this, and Dave speculated that it was kind of almost.
Your mic cut out, Tom.
Yeah, Tom, your mic cut. Tom,
Okay,
can you repeat your points? Tom, can you repeat your points? Because for like the past 3-4 seconds, you cut out.
Oh, okay. And then when the leaker came out, and Dave texted me because shortly after, and the leaker came out and announced what he announced. And let's keep in mind the denial of the NRS community. When the leaker announced the truth that we all know was the truth now, they started this. I listened to so many videos of content creators. Oh, I have an authority. NRS was giving bad information to people. Because NRS, they announced the Pro Series almost immediately after the leaker came out, Fate Unknown. And people were like, well, what's going on? Is the game done? Is it not? And then the M community created some wacko, bizarro land game of cloak and dagger spy game where, no, I've heard that NRS, they're feeding bad information to catch who the leaker is. They don't give a fuck. They don't want to do it. They don't even want to work on their own game. You think they're going to create a cloak and dagger game? That takes too much effort. They can't even put a training during a queue up, but let alone have some elaborate spy game. No, I mean, and they announced this Pro Series simply to kind of like offset, like, hey, what's going on? Is this true? Yada, yada, yada. They didn't want to do it. They didn't plan on holding it. This was the last minute thing they slapped together. It proved they slapped together. And the truth is, to all you people out there, don't bitch on Twitter about it, because as Ketchup and Mustard and SonicFox and Pig of the Hut and Crimson Shadow and all these people have mentioned, they don't care. They don't care what I say, what Dave says, what Rio says. They don't care what the 1% says. They only care about the 99% of the casuals. Well, as long as the casuals are going to keep spending money, they don't care. So the only way to fix this is your wallet.
Well, Tom, I don't know. Look, I agree with the majority of your points. I don't know if there's a correlation between how this event is run and I don't know, the sales or the quality of the game. Let me just mention this fact, though, and Rio can jump in and correct me or agree with me, however he feels. Like, I think Roy represents a very small minority of the people in the NRS community. I think it's okay to have like 2 or 3 takes, like hot takes. I think we all do. I certainly do with zoning and armor. A lot of people don't like what I have to say, but I generally feel this way. But when you have 10 hot takes, I mean, it's at that point, it's just like, dude, like, calm it down. When you think that MK1 is faster than some of the other games, when you think that the first year of the game is acceptable, when you think that the storyline is the best you've ever seen, when you think that the online is on par with Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8, then you're gonna lose people and you're gonna make people mad. That's not the majority opinion almost by nobody's standards. And also, I don't know if the implication that people like Honeybee, you know, and the rest of the names that you have mentioned, they're like, I don't know, someone shilling the game. King Jr. and I had Honeybee on Franco's podcast. He was very critical of the game and was being very uh forceful in his opinion about it. So I don't think there's this so-called, I don't know, I to use your term, toxic positive content creators who are shilling for the sake of shilling, or
But
even
really
if
quick, 'cause
shilling
I
is,
want to be fair to them. I no longer am going to use the term toxic positivity. I was unfair to all these people because the truth is they do this for their livelihood. As
but they
Dave pointed,
don't. They don't.
hold on.
Honeybee, that's
Stop.
not well, because you're
Stop.
saying stuff that's inaccurate, and you were
Not
making
all of them, but a
comments
lot of
about
them do.
people.
Not all of them, but a lot of
Because you
them
make
do.
comments about people who cannot defend themselves, and
Not
I don't
all
think
of
that's
them,
right.
not all of them, but a lot of them do. But I'm no longer giving this toxic positivity term. I'm not doing that anymore. Because the truth is, as you had me see the light on, like, if people are going in another realm and they understand they're looking to do a job and what yada 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 and what another realm necessarily wants to hear, you're going to do what you have to do. These people, NRS has a blacklist policy. If you are a commentator and you want to talk about XYZ that's not quote unquote positive about the game, which means ignore everything bad, you are blacklisted. They are doing what they have to do in order to stay in the good graces of NetherRealm, because as part as being, they do care about growing their channel. They do care about their content. Whether they do it for a career or not, it is still a form of income. And being able to get those early copies from Warner Brothers and being in the good graces of WB and NetherRealm does benefit them quite a bit. And so a lot of them are will be critical about the game in somewhat. However, during the first year, if you go to almost all of their channels, you will see nothing but hype faces and game saved constantly during the first year, talking about best state it's ever been, most balanced the game ever been. Rip from Rip Serena, I got to find the clip. After the first Final Kombat that only featured 2 characters and 2 cameos for the whole top 8, did a little spiel where they talked about, still in all, despite what people saw, the level was so high, most people can't even comprehend it. Shut the fuck up. Enough with this bullshit. During the first year, it was nothing. And I mean, so we know the game was done after 1 year, because as soon as Chaos Reigns lost, a month later, they were like, pull the plug. So they had 1 year to fix it. During that 1 year, all these people that come out now and say, oh, yeah, I'm critical now. During the first year, they weren't. Everyone that was critical was called toxic, negative, doomers, etc. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of bringing the surgeon in after the guy is already dead on the operating table because the surgeon didn't arrive in time? What is the purpose in talking about the problems and the solutions when the game is done and then we're on to the next game? Get some fucking goddamn balls and tell NetherRealm the way it is. Otherwise, enjoy ceiling fans falling on fucking people as they give you subpar events and subpar products.
But Tom, I as you guys know, King and King Jr. were called to test the game. I believe their names should be somewhere in the credit section. They tested the game. No, they're not shills. No, they had their voices heard. I'm not going to discuss the specific because, one, they're my friends, and second of all, I'm not going to get them to violate their non-disclosure agreements.
I'm not necessarily talking about them. I'm talking about some things that blood.
No, I understand that, but you made some serious accusations that people I don't know who are there.
Hold on a minute. Yeah, I'm so tired
Tom,
of this,
hold
man.
on. Tom, shut up.
I was on the inside for a long time, man. I'm not making accusations.
Don't shit on people. So, like, what are you saying? King and King, they were just there, like, what?
Did I name King Jr.?
You named plenty of names, and stop naming names for people who cannot defend themselves. Like, why are you naming random names? Like,
then come on and face me. They don't have any goddamn balls. Mike Holloway has any single one of them to face me. They won't. They don't face a goddamn person.
What does Mike Holloway have to do this? A guy who talks about Charlie Kirk. That's the guy that we have to like now bow down to.
The door has been open for these people to come on constantly, and they refuse it. So
let me talk about what my friends who are literally in my backyard have said. They were highly critical, yet they were respectful, as anybody would be, in an environment in which you have to do a job. Whether you are, I don't know, at a company or you're a teacher, you're a firefighter, you're not gonna go up to your boss and trash the company or the boss or whatever or somebody else. Like, there's stuff. you have to handle yourself professionally. That's how you. That's what anybody would do if you want to keep a job. If you want to be taken seriously. If you want your feedback to be taken seriously. That's the whole point. And nobody, at least that I know, that has any credibility, aside from maybe Roy, has ever defended the first year of Mortal Kombat 1's lifespan. Rio, your take, please.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to chime in on. Let me just mention this because I read a few comments and people were like, Rio's an MK hater, this and that. Dude, look, if it gets to the point where I'm getting called the hater, I think people are missing the point. Just because I don't like, a few things in the MK1, like fatal blows or whatever the mechanics are, doesn't mean I think the game's bad or isn't worth playing. I actually think the game is good. There's just, things in it that I don't enjoy. But to go on what Roy said last week about, Rio, maybe MK is not for you, you should play something else. Here's the issue with this. And let me just say this because I do respect Roy for his opinion. He likes the game. I think if you like something, you should be passionate about it and you should defend it. But you have to realize that everybody has their own opinion. And the whole point of games getting patches is to improve them. So when there's things that either hinder the gameplay or make it less enjoyable to play, then things like that should probably get looked at. Like, I feel like the elephant in the room is, the fatal blow. That's something I don't want to see come back for MK13, but at this point, I think it's just time to, I guess, see what they do in the last patch, because they're not done patching MK12 yet, right?
Well, we have to wait and see. But let me say something, and I've been really thinking about this, and I want Tom to chime in. Guys, I was wrong. I was 100% wrong about MK11. Not in the fact that I think the game is trash. I still think it's trash. But my approach was completely wrong. And I think Rio is the model. You can 100% hate on a game and still support the community. And this is and in this aspect, Chris is 100% right, and always was, has been, and will be. I cannot stand MK11. But there comes a point, it's like, dude, are you here because you like MK? Or are you here because you just want to cause drama and trash the community and its players and everything else? And everything else. So, look, man, there's no objectivity in fighting games. I like armor. Rio doesn't like certain aspects of it, right? We disagree. Rio wants anti-airs to be a certain way. Maybe I don't, right? And we have had these conversations for like a million times, and we will continue having it, and we want you guys to opine as well. But there is no objectivity. I like certain stuff. Some people dislike it, etc., etc. That's the reality. So people like MK11. And I went back, like, I don't know, like a month or two ago, I went back and I played it. And people are still playing it. It's hard to believe. Like, yeah, people are still playing it. They're playing it. I think on Steam, it's even more popular than MK1. So obviously there's an audience for it. And I think that needs to be acknowledged. Like, that's incredible, right? Same thing with MK1. I played it this morning at 8 a.m. I was like, dude, nobody's going to play it. It was so busy. I had to go use the bathroom. I had to like mash the cancel button to cancel the next match. That's how bad it was, because it would just literally assign me. So obviously there's an audience for it. So no, I was wrong, and I will never trash the community anymore, or its fan base, or the content creators for liking the game as it is. However, doesn't necessarily mean I can't comment on the on the specific gameplay elements. And I think that's the lesson, our prior drama that between Tom, Rio, Crimson, and me, right? That's what I have learned. And I think that's what we should do moving forward, whether you like the game or not. If you don't like it, just move on with your life. Play something else. Why are you here talking about it? Don't trash the community. Don't trash the players. Don't trash the content creators. Let's try to build this community no matter how you feel about the game. And if you are so passionate that you vehemently dislike it, to just move on. Do something else with your life.
So M2 Dave says, do not do what I do. Do not criticize the game the way I do. Say you don't like it and move on and stop playing it and stop talking about it. And I did that, and yet I hear people all the time say, Tom, why don't you put your videos back up? You can't. Which is it? Which is it? Do I shut the fuck up and move on, or do I
Well-
make videos until the problems get fixed? What do I do?
Hold on a second.
Because
Well,
you're on the side of shut up and move on, and also I reject
I'm on the
this
side of
idea.
shut up and
I
stop being a
reject
hypocrite.
this idea. I
You
reject.
you
this
say how you
idea.
don't like balance. You talk about how like balance doesn't mean everything. I mean,
It
look,
doesn't.
Rio can
Is
be the
the game-
arbiter. Okay, then
is the
why did
game
you
a
treat all
judge?
your videos and talk about balance? If you're like, balance
None
doesn't
of-
matter. it
Give
doesn't
me an
matter, it's-
example. Give me an example. I talk about balance. Give me an
You
example.
made 8 Jackie videos.
Okay, let me elaborate. For those like Dave who are lost, I didn't make Jackie videos pertaining to the balance of the game. In fact, the videos I made about Jackie made 0.0 cents to do with balance. But again, the Mortal Kombat community, and look, I hate the fact, don't shit on the community. The community shits on people and things every single day. And then the minute they get their own medicine back, they cry foul. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? I have no love for the Mortal Kombat community. What I can tell you is this. When I made these videos about Jackie, I was talking about using an example of the custom variation system. It had zero to do about balance. It had to do about the freedom of the characters. The fact that Sub-Zero was only considered good because he had a 50-50. And the 50-50 beat a lot of the universal defensive mechanics. MK11 was way too universal. The characters that were very good, but not just good, but they weren't just played because they were good. They were played a lot because the characters were also enjoyable. They didn't do the normal monotonous MK11 stuff that almost the entire cast did. And they circumvented a way around a lot of the universal systems. They had ways around the wake up system that was universal. They had ways around the flawless block system, like Cabal. He can jump all day. You can flawless block his jump kick, try to up to him. Most of the time, it still misses. The same thing with Jackie, etc. They had ways around a lot of these universal systems, and they kind of played their own game, and the game looked one way when these guys were off the screen and another way when they were on the screen. And I used Jackie as a way to say, hey, listen, all the characters could really be doing this. The issue is in the slotting system, and I made these videos after the final patch because I'm like, they acted like they were giving us this great all customs as a way to sell the product again, to sell the final version. Then when we get it, they didn't really do too much but unlock customs in competitive mode. And I said, hey, listen, you got Jackie, who has a lot of tools because they're 3-slot moves, and her core moves are also really good. I look at Cetron. I said, look, her Hell's Wrath is a core move. She doesn't have to spend slotting points to do it in the air or grounded. I use several characters as an example. I use Jackie as the biggest example, simply because I wasn't as familiar with Fujin, etc. I didn't know Jackie was a day one character. So I was a little more familiar, and I hadn't faced Fujin at high level at first. I faced plenty of Jackies at high level, so I was able to explain it a little better that way, which is why I chose that as the example. Not crying to nerf her or tone her down or tone everyone up. It was about, because to me, people don't seem to realize that a character can be bad and still very good. Where a character lands on a tier list is irrelevant. The reason why said character is on a tier list is relevant. If a character is bottom on a tier list because they're just not very good, then that's a problem. If a character is bottom on the tier list because they're better characters, that doesn't really matter. So when people think, oh, a balance and you want every character to be good, no, I don't really care about that. What I care about is the fun factor and the freedom, and that the way you want to play the game is represented, and not you shouldn't be stoned in the field because you want to play a game a certain way. Dave shouldn't be stoned because he has a certain idea. And many of the people, including Crimson Shadow, have constantly over the years, Dave will forget about it now because he's trying to make a point, mocked Dave for what his preference is in how he likes to play. This is stupid. And my point with Jackie was just to show, like, hey, you have a slotting system in which you have some characters that have good base moves, and then other characters, their base moves are terrible, and they have to spend slotting points just to give themselves base moves. Or like a character will have a move on the ground, have to spend a point to do it in the air, whereas other characters can do these things without it. Or Cetrion, Jackie had powerful moves that were all one slot. If you made any of those moves 2 slots, like if you made the leap 2 slots and then the air grenade 2 slots, or the leap 1 slot and the grenade 1 slot, and then the ability to do multiple grenades EX in the air as opposed to just one, another slot, this character really wouldn't have worked properly. It's just too many slotting points to make her do what she wants to do. This was a problem a lot of the cast had. It wasn't about balance. It was about freedom. But because I made 4 videos
This is such
on
a
Jackie,
ridiculous argument. Tom,
it's
you know I'm not saying you're complaining.
okay,
Hold on.
man.
I'm not Tom, hold on. I'm not saying you're complaining. You are talking about
This is gotcha.
the balance feature of a fighting game, right? How many slots a move should
It's
have, whether
creativity. It's called a custom. My point was that when MK11 was launched, Ed Boon gave this bullshit about it's a timeline game. Lies, and you're gonna have different versions of each of your character from each version of Mortal Kombat. That didn't happen. Then it came to it's going to be a custom game, and I've highlighted in many of my videos. See, Dave leaves this out of the by Jackie videos. Dave, you remember the article that I constantly post from IGN in which they sat down with the development team and they were very clear that they could and would change the variation system and things. We could make moves, core moves that aren't core moves, take moves that are core moves and make them slotted moves, change the slotting. And they assured us that they could and would do these things throughout the life of the game, which it never happened. Custom was supposed to be at launch. It ended up not being a launch, and then when they ended up releasing customs, it was anything but customs. It was probably the most limiting custom mode you've ever seen, with conflictions and ban moves and all kind of stuff. Just very lazily slapped it out there. And my point was about the freedom aspect of the game, not about the balance. It was a customized system with a crap ton of restrictive features. It was not very custom whatsoever. And I only brought up why this was, again, just poorly implemented. Another MK11 had the potential to be great. MK11, the moral of MK11 is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. They had a ton of good intentions from the breakaway system. The idea, Rio, when he talked about breakers can be anticlimactic. How many times do we see a tournament? A guy's got like 5%. And the other guy's got like 55, 60%, right? The guy makes a mistake. You took 40%. Now he's got like 10% left, 20% left. One hit and it's over. Then he hits him again. Oh shit, he's going to come back. Oh, breaker. He has to hit him again. It can be very anticlimactic. The point of breakaway was it's going to give you that escape combo that, Roy Archon desperately needs. As he made that point about it, how you can escape the combos, without getting rid of the anticlimactic certain death parts of the match. However, it was implemented poorly. A lot of things had great ideas, like the custom variation system. It was just extremely and poorly and lazily implemented. And that was my point. But again, the MK community, and I shouldn't just say MK community, it's the greater FGC overall, it's you cannot even have a conversation. It's all full of gotcha. If you try to talk about something, you're just salty because you're not winning. Or you're salty about this, or you're washed, or you're just crying about the character. The FGC has become a bunch of babies that are incapable of having a conversation. Even in this very podcast, it's being labeled as I was crying about Jackie, crying about balance.
Nobody used the word
Rio,
crying.
I believe he said I was crying about balance and crying about Jackie. I believe that's what was said.
Yes, you did say that, Dave.
So
Fair
either
enough.
way, so
Rio, are
either
you
way,
also
that's
gonna
my
say? Are you also gonna believe, Tom, that all those videos just mysteriously disappeared for no reason? Look,
we know
I'm
why
a
I took
linguist.
videos down, Dave.
Look,
I took all my
guys,
videos down
study.
because
Hold on,
no
hold
one
on.
cares. Stop
Okay,
pretending.
if
Stop
nobody
pretending
cares,
like I
then
took my
why
video.
did you make the videos in the first place?
Stop pretending like I took my video. I took them down because as Roy Archon came on and said, people like Tom, they're negative about the game because they're looking for views, etc. I was also accused of being too negative. I was being accused of being too negative by several content creators, called out by name as someone who was only making these negative videos to make hella money. So I took all my videos down and say, I don't say what I say because I care about the views. I care about the money. I do it because I truly believe in what I'm saying. However, since this is what people believe and my credibility is being questioned, I will take all the videos down. And besides, nobody cares what I have to say. No one listens to me. My voice is completely unheard. So there's no point in making any more anyway. So I took the old ones out. I don't make any more.
I get it. But anyway, the point is,
it's not the victim. I'm not playing victim. I'm not the Mortal Kombat community, the biggest set of victims on God's green earth. What I'm saying is,
they're the worst people in the world.
I just chose the reality. I chose the reality and said, okay, this is the reality, and I moved on.
Okay, good. The point is, at least my point is that you can play the linguistics game any you want. Or you can say, I'm talking about creativity, freedom, liberty. It's everybody comments on balance at some point away, right? That's why we talk about fighting games when we talk about them at a high level. We talk about the balance, right? And the stuff that we like and we dislike. To masquerade it as anything else is just dishonesty, right? There's no
If
doubt about
enjoyment
that.
is more important than in balance, why do you put balance over enjoyment? And the fun factor. Why do you put
Well,
balance over
because
that?
enjoyment to a character is related to your character likely being strong and not losing and
That's
more
where you're
winning.
wrong. That's where you're wrong. Enjoyment
You know,
is
you know,
that's where you're wrong. Enjoyment
Sure.
is your character playing a way that is fun for you. That is your. So we've had this talk, Dave. The problem is ultimately people act they want a balanced game. Then and the only way to achieve balance is to strip a lot of things from the variety. You have to remove a lot of variety in order to create some semblance of balance. And then they will say, "Oh well, it's not enjoyable." The only way to make things enjoyable is to go back to some of those more polarizing matchups, because if you have every style, every archetype represented, by default, you're going to have some even matchups, some winning matches, some lopsided matchups. This is the very nature of putting every archetype, every style. However, to Dave's point, if they do that, then they want balance. They go back to balance. Now the game is this. They go back to this, then they want balance. The modern FGC is a bunch of pussified babies, period.
Rio, your take on all of this, please.
Okay, well, it feels like there's a disconnect here. What Tom is saying is true. I do remember because look, Tom, I've watched all your videos you made during MK11. I used to enjoy watching them. I watched a lot of channels for MK11 because, that was back when I was really into the game. Tom did make videos explaining Jackie's custom stuff. I remember watching a couple of those. But what Dave is saying is he's not talking about those couple of videos you made about Jackie where you were talking about the custom specifically. He's talking about all the other Jackie videos you made about the character. Specifying her mids are too good. Her offense is ridiculous. How you have barely any options to do anything. You can't break away. She does too much damage. She doesn't really have to play the game like other characters do. Do you guys remember during this whole ban Jackie movement? And I'm not saying Tom was part of that at all, but there was for a long time. Yeah, no, I'm not saying you were. But Jackie back then was considered to be really bad for the game. Like there was a whole Jackie ban movement where people wanted the character banned from tournaments because of how good she was and how she broke the rules of the game. It wasn't fair to play against her. You couldn't break away. She was like shoving mids down your face and you couldn't really move and your only option is to literally poke her while she's checking with mids. So during all of that, Tom did end up making a lot of videos. I remember seeing them. Like you were also explaining, why Jackie's dumb, this and that. So I feel like there's a disconnect here. What Dave is saying is he's not talking about those couple of videos you made addressing the custom stuff with her. But he's talking about the other videos you made about her other tools that were really
the
good.
reason why I made those other tools was just to highlight the problem that people are complaining about. For example, it's not that Jackie's mid was too good. It's that the mids in the game were slower than they traditionally had been in Mortal Kombat history. In other words, Jackie had a 9-frame mid. Jax, I believe, had one too. Most mids in the game were not 9. So this is what was invented, was called the quote-unquote turn-stealing meta. You never heard this term in MK9. You never heard this term in MKX. Because when you have good, fast mids, there is no such thing as a quote-unquote turn-stealing meta. And this happened in MK11, to which people would do moves that are low negative frames. Like even if you have like a 7-frame down 1, and you do a move that's -3, your down 1 is going to come out in 10 frames. That means you can poke, and if they try to... And then a lot of times they would backdash or down 1. So say you go to down 1. If you go to, just to simplify it, if they do something -3 and go to down 1, if you go to do a jab, you lose. Down 1 goes under it. They get their turn back. They stole their turn. If you go to do a throw, you go under the throw. You lose. They stole their turn. They get their turn back. If you even have a 10-frame mid, it's a trade. If you have an 11-frame mid, and an 11-frame mid is extremely fast in current Mortal Kombat, you lose. So people kind of got used to that universal thing. And then here's a character like Jackie, who, unlike Jax, does all this crazy stuff and has a 9-frame mid, and they're playing the turn-stealing meta, poke. And Jackie's like, nope, it's my turn. You lose every single time. And the combo does 40 and you can't break out of it. So it was the perfect world. They go to steal their turn like backdash, they get hit. It's a 9-frame mid. They go to steal a turn like down 1, they get hit. It's a 9-frame mid. So then They feel like I'm not able to do the universal turn stealing meta on Jackie, but Jackie had so many ways to steal her turns. So not only was she all over the place, didn't have to deal with the wake up system or the forward roll, as she had options, select airborne options that beat both forward roll, backward roll, wake up buttons, wake up jump, everything simultaneously. She also had the 9-frame mid, and she a lot of times also had probably one of, if not the best turn stealing meta with multiple EX grenade shots. She had to guess when she was going to do 1, 2, or 3, if she was going to come down. This meter building was also passive. People were like, oh, just make her break away. And then she doesn't have any meter to do that. But long story short, she did a lot of things all in one. And Jackie was only the first one. And then a lot of the banned Jackie stuff went away when people realized, oh, Fujin has it. And then with customs, it's like, oh, Kotal Khan has it, and Cabal, you know what I mean? So as more and more characters were able to do XYZ and kind of get around the system and play their own game, the whole Ban Jackie stuff stopped. The reason why the Ban Jackie one started is because she was the first one before Fujin with customs, before Kotal with customs, all that. There was just Jackie, which is why she was, I guess, public enemy number one. And those were my points to explain these things to MK players. Like you even see this today, even all the nerf. I remember watching streams when Johnny Cage got one of his final nerfs after Evo or after the first Final Combat, and I believe they nerfed him again after Evo. But I was watching. I don't want to say their name. It was very prominent, not prominent, but it was a streamer. Let's just say that. And I watching people talk about it on Twitter. And they would do the turn stealing meta poke, but down one, whatever. They would do something low negative frames and down one or backdash, and Johnny is just going to shove a 9-frame mid down your throat. Now against pretty much every other
Rio. Tom, just stop. Rio, what's this idiotic terms? What was the steel turning meta in MK9? Come on,
There was no steel turn meta in MK9.
Rio, you play Sonya.
Armor.
What was it? Yes. Guys, this is an idiotic.
It's not the same thing. It's not.
It is
same.
exactly. Yeah, it was worse in MK9. It was worse. Tom, hold on. You've talked enough. Rio, you fight Sonya in MK9. You fight Cabal. People do a string or any move that's slightly minus. What do they do, Rio?
They armor.
You don't need meter to do a down one, Dave. You don't need meter to do down one. It's not even close.
I know,
not even close.
But the thing is,
I think what Dave is trying to say is that in MK9, because you could full combo pokes on block, a lot of the time you had to be careful against Sonya because when she would down one you and you would read it to punish it, you couldn't tell she was going to do down one EX cartwheel, which would give her poke armor, and then that would blow up you trying to go for a combo mid.
In fact, Rio, the so-called steel turning meta in MK9 was worse because you have a character who was like a.
But here's the thing, though. But nobody liked the armor in MK9. That was one of the problems with
Rio,
the game.
I'm not excusing.
And let me say this. As somebody who played and beat the best Sonyas on the planet, including my God, in tournament, and to the fact that the best Sonya player at the end of the game said he would never even play that match in tournament, despite the fact that it's more even or slight advantage to Sonya. I can tell you this, it's not even close. It's not even close. It's not even close. And you mentioned Sonya. It is not worse. It is not worse. It is not worse. It is not worse. It is not worse.
Especially in MKX. Okay, then why did people walk out of my apartment because I stole my turn with an armor that did 50%? Again, idiotic, just almost like honestly insulting, like to make the case that I don't know, nowadays it's worse or it used to be. It's not even close, right? Here's what's not close. It's the fact that in the old games it was a lot worse, including MK9 and MKX.
There's nothing to do with that. I was only highlighting I'm only explaining the Jackie thing because you brought the Jackie thing up. I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, but as usual, Dave, like the Mortal Kombat community, is always interested in the gotcha. Caught you crying, bitch. I mean,
gotcha.
which is
deleting your own videos. Nobody made you delete the videos. You say
I deleted the video.
Making me mad. Like, yeah, go cry in the corner. That's what you want.
I deleted the videos because there's no reason for them up. Nobody gives a fuck. I'm not being in delusional world. And I'm tired of being told that I'm making videos. I'm tired of being told. I am tired of being told. I am tired of being told. I am tired of being. I am tired of
playing the victim, dude. Like,
I'm
it's
not
annoying.
the victim. I am not. Are you kidding
Okay,
me?
stop. Oh, nobody listens to me. I'm Tom
kidding
Brady. I gotta.
I'm playing the victim. Do the podcast, guys. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. I don't have much to
Look,
say. Go
guys,
ahead.
look.
No.
I
Go
think
ahead. Go ahead.
wait,
Go ahead.
hold
Go ahead,
on,
guys. I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good.
We're missing the point here. Like, who cares if someone's complaining or stating opinion? Who cares? If someone wants to say they don't like something about the game or they think the character's too strong or this whatever, they have. I mean, they should be able to say that, right? And people can disagree or agree or talk about it. I mean, I don't understand why this is such a big issue. But anyway, to go back to what I was saying earlier regarding games, I think one of the issues in the Mortal Kombat community is that whenever people say, you know, a game is bad or this mechanic is trash, they usually say stuff like, "Oh, this mechanic's ass" or "this game is garbage." If you're a developer or someone in the community that's trying to have like a discussion about it, it's like, well, where do I go from that statement? Like, imagine you're Paulo, right? And someone says, "Yo, this mechanic is ass." Like, what are you supposed to take from that? Okay, ass how? Like, is it? Do you not like the how it's developed? Like, do you not like the frames after the combos? Like, what exactly are you saying? This is why whenever like, and look, I know people like to say, "Oh, Rio's a big MK hater," this and that. You know, he didn't like MKX, didn't like Injustice, and that. If you go back to my main channel or whatever, if you notice, I have no videos up saying, "Hey guys, MKX is ass. Don't play the game. It's bad." I don't have any videos like that. Not even about MK1 or MKX or Injustice. You want to know why? Because making videos like that is pointless. What is the point of saying, "Hey guys, this game is shit. Don't play. It's garbage." Like, I don't understand what that achieves, aside from you just adding negativity to the community and, you know, becoming part of the problem. What I like to do and what I think more people should do is when you don't like something about a game, you should explain why you don't like it, what's bad about it, and why it should be removed or changed or whatever. And that's a better starting point than just stating, "Yo, this mechanic is trash," or "this game is garbage," without explaining it. You just assume everybody knows what you're talking about.
Let me ask you a question. Rio, would you say that I am someone who does a better job than most of breaking things down and explaining it in detail on my videos?
You do actually. That's why I
Then
like
what the
watching your
fuck are
videos
you
during
talking about,
MK11.
Dave? Then what the fuck is Dave talking about?
And honestly, Tom made some videos during MK11 that would be considered complaining that I actually agreed with. Like when he made videos going like such on teleport, "This is too dumb, this and that." I agree with that 100%. Having a move that, I don't know if you guys remember, way back when Setron was extremely good in the beginning of the game, she had an away teleport, which she could teleport away from you, and it had like almost instant recovery. She could do it in the air, ground, and it was like unpunishable. You could almost do nothing about it. It would come back in like 8 seconds. Some characters would literally lose A2 to her because they could not get her to the corner or ever chase her. She could just run away all day. And when you think about it, something like that is so brain dead, so effortless, that why is something that's so easy to do like that strong in the game? Things like that should not be in the game, especially when people are going to tournaments to play for money. That's just very bad game design. So in a way, you could say, yes, Tom was complaining about that, but does it matter if people are complaining, if they have a point? Like, in my opinion, some of those videos were really good.
But that's not the point. The point is you have somebody in this podcast who's saying that balance doesn't matter. That's not the main point of fighting games. Yet you have made videos about balance. You constantly reference balance. And by the way, all of us are guilty. That's what I'm saying.
I do think the balance matters. I don't think a game should be super
But
brain dead and have terrible
balance,
stuff.
balance does matter. My point is that balance comes second to the first thing. Is the game fun?
Fun is subjective, and what fun means to Rio.
But
and
here's the
you
thing, though,
and me-
because Dave, I feel like you're looking at it in too one-dimensional. Because yes, what you said earlier is true for a lot of people. A lot of people, if they're playing a top-tier character in the game and winning money or whatever, they're gonna like it no matter what. But here's the thing, though. Tom doesn't really fit that because Tom played MK9. He liked it. Meanwhile, his character was garbage. But he didn't like MK11, even though his character was top tier in that game. So sometimes it really matters if you really like how it
liked it. What do you mean he liked it? He complained about bad matchups nonstop. Not necessarily like complain as in.
And
you know,
again, he liked the foundation of the game. I'm talking. He liked the foundation of the game.
Let me again say this again. It is very difficult in the modern FGC when
I'm not talking about the modern FGC. I'm talking about us.
Here's me complaining about matchups. Hey Tom, why'd you lose to that Cyrex player? Cyrex is a fucked up character and Maxer's a great character. In fact, the only thing I've ever said about Cyrex is he's fucked up. And I used to joke around about, you remember, Leo, that shit was goofy, please, no meter. I would joke around.
Yeah, that was the
joke.
Big
I would joke around that, you know, oh, Cyrex. See, here's what people call me complaining. I would be on stream several times at VSM. Maxter has no bar, so now Cyrex is only limited to 48% because he has no bar. And then when he had one bar, I'd say, well, poor Cyrex is only limited to about 90. People would perceive me making comments like this or saying that Cyrex is, because here's the MK community back then. Tom, why did you lose that matchup that Sub-Zero wins 10-0? Dave could say, oh, quote unquote, they're trolling you. I don't give a fuck. I'm not playing that game right now.
Here's what the community thinks. Like, it
I don't
doesn't
give a shit.
matter.
I don't give a shit. My point is, when my response is Sub-Zero loses, Rio, how much? It was so bad that the MK community demanded I play a money match with Denzel so that they could put me in. Stop.
My God, this is so hard to. Who cares what people think? Just fucking play the game and enjoy yourself. Aren't you the fun guy? Why are we talking about what other people think? You literally let other people do this much.
This is what Dave does. Dave will do things like this. So my point is that when you explain certain things, it is still perceived as complaining about matchups. I accepted the matchup the way it is to explain that, no, you're wrong. I'm not the world's worst player, and Cyrex doesn't lose to Sub-Zero 10-0. Cyrex, stop. How many times, Rio, was I questioned with Sub-Zero that he wins all these matchups and I don't know the matchup? And if I would try to say, not true, he loses this matchup, this character is very powerful. He's really fucked up. He just hit his goofy, please, no meter, one hit, you're dead. It is perceived as crying about matchups. Surely Rio, who has played the biggest crybabies on God Green Earth with Cabal, knows the difference in how I talk about the characters and how everyone else. Rio played me probably almost more than anyone else with Cabal. And we would sit there and we would joke around. Never once did I walk around the room and do what everyone else does about banned Cabal and fucked up this and that. Neither have you, Dave. Your experiences with me do not match what you are telling other people's experiences are with me. Could it be that that is greatly overstated? Because, Dave, you cannot. Dave's like, well, you didn't say it about Freddy and you didn't say it about Cabal. Brother, if I didn't say it about Freddy or Cabal, it's safe to say I didn't say it about anyone.
Okay, let's answer this question. Rio, what was the most complained about thing about MK9? At least one of them. What were like people,
Cabal.
especially if you did? What's that?
Cabal.
No. If you're not a Cabal player, like let's say you play the game, you're a Freddy player, you're a Sub-Zero player, whoever, right? I think, would you agree? And if I'm exaggerating, please tell me. Was one of the most complained about things MK9 at that era matchups? Am I exaggerating or not?
Yes,
By the
people
way,
did not like playing characters that did something that was either brain dead or being put in a terrible matchup.
I'm not saying. Thank you. I'm not saying that Tom is the biggest complainer of all time. I'm just saying that's what people complain about. Why do we have variations? Why do we have custom moves?
But I was not one of them. All I'm just saying is, please clarify that. I'm not in that group.
I'll literally just clarify. I didn't say you. I just said by and large, the whole community. Unless you were Rio and used Cabal and you bodied everybody for 3 MLGs straight, people, this is a fact. It just happened. People complain about matchups and then the bugs and glitches about the game. Rio, am I right or wrong?
No, you're right, but here's the problem though. We didn't need variations to fix that problem.
Rio, I'm not saying that. Rio, I'm not saying. I'm just saying I don't support variations. I don't like customs. I don't like cameos. I'm just saying we have to address the reality in this room. And the reality is that's what people complain about. To make it, I'm not saying I'm the saint or I'm the most evil guy in the world. I'm just telling you that's what the atmosphere. That's what was the state of the game. And I assume Paul was like, you know what? People complain about matchups. They're literally harassing me at tournaments. Not me, not Tom, not you, right? Not any of us in the chat. But you don't think people harassed Paulo about matchups? The fact that they had to play these bad matchups and they were like outraged? Of course people did. You know this is true.
Yes, of course they did. They did this everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, didn't matter where it was. But what I'm saying is I don't think variations are the solution to making a game better balanced. I think the best way to make a game better balanced is to balance it in other ways that involves keeping the character's design intact, like the core aspect of it. Like, do we really need to see Baraka be like a zoner or see like Melina be a command grab character? Like, I feel like characters should go back to playing how they are. I really don't like how characters now are playing like other versions of other characters. Like, why is Kung Lao in MK12 playing like Katana from MK9? I mean, it's just, to me, like all over the place.
Well, this is my bigger point, and Tom can, maybe this is something we will agree on. It's always easy to be against something. I can trash MK11, which I did, and everybody liked me. now that I'm defending MK1 in certain aspects, there are many comments in the comment section that just hate on me, which is fine. It's always easy to be against something. I know what Rio is for. I don't know what Tom is for. He was talking about high power levels early on in MK1's lifespan. Then when that kind of became unpopular, he stopped. Now he's saying balance doesn't matter, yet in my perception, at least, he did a lot of his videos that talked about balance. Like, so Tom Brady, Mr. Tom Brady, sir, what are you for?
Okay, before I say
What
that,
would you like the next
I just
MK
want to
or
make
Injustice game to
a
play
quick
like?
30-second
Elaborate.
statement. To everyone who's listening to this, as you can see, everything that I talked about is the same thing that I had to deal with here today. And also, the reason why I deleted my videos or I deleted, I privated them is because I was called out many times over the first year by name as someone who is grifting for views or doing it to make money or blah, 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 blah. So I said, okay, well, if my credibility is in question, I'm going to take everything down. I don't care about building my channel. I don't care about money on YouTube. This way, if I say something, it's not because, oh, Tom's just doing this, or people being negative. The exact quote was people being negative, like Tom, make quote unquote hella money off the negativity. So I did it to dispute that. Also, I don't make videos anymore because I also realize for what? Nobody cares. I'm not so delusional to think they do. Now, moving on to what I stand for. What I stand for is individual playing styles mattering. Right now, as it is in Mortal Kombat, high power levels are very one dimensional. And the problem is the power is not distributed evenly because it is seen by the Mortal Kombat community and probably the greater FGC that certain skill sets, when characters complement those skill sets and they're powerful, are seen as scrubby mechanics. All you do is this. All you do is that. All you do is zone. All you do is run. All you do is trap me in the corner. All you do, all you do is mid command grab. Hello, mid command grab. Why is that in the game? But they don't understand fighting games. The Mortal Kombat community, I don't think, even grasps the very basics of a fighting game. They complained about Kotal Khan all the time, but didn't realize that what grapplers normally struggle against was removed from the game. So, of course, grapplers have an easier time now getting in. What I'm for is an overall, all fighting styles represented. I mean, I guess you could all say that there's no way to please them all, and that's true. Unfortunately, you can have it one of two ways. Either you can strive for a game where almost every matchup is 5-5, but in doing though, a game has to be very one-dimensional and every character has to do something similar in their own way. Take MK1. People can say, oh, but the zoning, you see sector zoning? If you removed that safe armored launcher and the ability to, you finally got close, armor move, it hit combo. Oh, it blocked OS, I'm across the screen. Haha, come catch me again. That powered the character. That alone powered the character. It wasn't the zoning per se, because you remove that, all of a sudden the zoning isn't so powerful anymore. The zoning itself in a vacuum is not hard to get around. And if people want to point out zoning is hard to get around, oh, so look at that zoning, people are having problems. This is the community who doesn't know how to deal with zoning. So even average zoning would be a problem to this community today, period. They don't know how to get around zoning, period. Because they don't know how to get around zoning, look at how bad Injustice was complained about. Oh my God, the zoning in zones this. People don't know how to. Now, the walking could have been better in Injustice. However, people just don't know how to deal with zoning in the NRS community. It's a younger community. That skill set, which many people developed years ago, is no longer present in the modern NRS community. So what I'm for is all skill sets being represented. To do so, you're going to have an imbalanced game, but it will still be balanced because all the characters will still be powerful in their own way. You're going to have polarizing matchups that you're going to hate. You're going to have matchups that are even and frustrating, matchups that you win and you feel good about. But that is what a good fighting game is, period. And to say, well, people are going to complain about that, so that doesn't work anymore. According to you, Dave, people complain about anything anyway. So you might as well just bite the bullet as a developer and do it and make sure everything is represented. And if people complain, okay. If you take it away, they're going to complain anyway.
The hypocrisy comes from the fact that the same people in the comments who will praise you and trash me are the same people I will make MK9 quit in 2 days. Why? Freddy. You guys go type Lord Brady is God, M2 Dave is a piece of shit. I will make you guys quit MK9 in 2 days. You will never get close to me. And the same people, oh my God, I thought I liked diversity and variations, not the variation system, but variations in characters. I thought I liked it. You guys would quit immediately. Most of you are hypocrites. That's my point. And by the way, to some extent, all of us are. Because we don't want to play those bad matches. We don't want to deal with, if you're zoning player, you don't want to deal with anti-zoning. If you're a rushdown player, you want to play a character who's really strong defensively, right? Like a command grab character who beats you up close, etc., etc. That's the reason why the games were changed a long time ago. Not that I approve, again, as Rio said, nobody approves of the changes, but that's why the games were changed a long time ago. Rio, your take.
Okay, I agree with what both of you guys are saying. Yes, Dave is actually right here. The reason why a lot of this diversity and extreme playstyle differences was removed in the newer NRS games is because in the past, a lot of people did not like going against a specific playstyle. It could have been this absurd combo character or this hyper zoning character or this extremely aggressive character. Once they got in, you could not get them out. And, you know, obnoxious set play characters, characters with ridiculous amounts of mobility that you cannot keep them out, you know, all kinds of different playstyles. The reason a lot of this got axed and changed it to what it is now is to kind of curve it and be like, you know what, instead of having all this crazy different kind of playstyles, let's have just a simple meta where characters will play around it, so that way we don't have to balance as heavily in all these different directions. Like, how do we make this character play? This character's always in the air, or this character's always in the ground, or this character you're never near 80% of the match, so how do we make this character not feel too broken? This is what I think NRS should do. I think for MK13, they should go back to the drawing board, bring back these diverse playstyles, because I'm more for that kind of playstyle. However, one thing NRS is not good at, or at least from the past, is because of how it depends on how the game functions at the base, which is how fun the game is going to be to play overall. For example, the reason why some of these matchups felt so bad in the past MK games, all these different playstyles, is because, let's take Injustice 1, for example, a game that's very imbalanced, similar to MK9. Let's say you're playing Aquaman. Your whole game is to walk back, put your opponent in a checkmate situation. They have to play footsies with you or try to jump and die, and that was pretty much the matchup. The reason why this is so unfun, and people rather uninstall or jump out the window than play a match against Aquaman in terms of having to play in his favor, is because the game feels so bad in general. Like, the movement is so atrocious. The footsies, the walking, everything is just so bad that when you're playing against a character like that, where now you have to play on the ground and play his game, but when you're playing his game, the base game is so terrible that the movement is clunky, the jumping is floaty, everything just feels awful. It makes you not want to play. The reason why other games that have similar matchups like this, like if you play against other characters in other games where you can't jump, you have to play on the ground, the reason why people don't complain as much in those games and why it feels better compared to NRS games is because in NRS games, when you're put in that spot, you can't move because the game is so clunky. It's just like not designed in a very good way. Other games, okay, I can't jump, I have to play on the ground. But guess what? At least the game is very fluid. We can move around, you can move in and out, move, recover quick. Like, you're actually kind of, there's more involvement on the player, even though you're playing a bad matchup. NRS has to really, for the next MK game, go back to the beginning, design a game from the ground up, and make the game, for starter, they need to make the game feel a lot fluid and quicker, because when you're going to be playing some of these terrible matchups, can we at the very least feel like we're actually able to move and play rather than be locked down in a very slow game where we can barely have any options to do anything? That, like, when you play like that, and if you guys ever go back to play MK9 or Injustice 1 or whatever, you're going to feel it in some of these matchups where there's just not a lot of options because the games are very restricted. So there's not much you can do but have to play the opponent's game. And depending what it is going to depend on how much it's going to make you want to rage, you know, on what their playstyle is.
But Ria, you kind of tap into the point that I've been trying to make all along, which is Aquaman, the Aquaman quote-unquote fun example. What if you're the Aquaman player? You probably had a lot of fun. What if you're the MK9 Tom Brady type player, you probably had a lot of fun um, rolling, shutting down, going as far as like I don't know, 90 seconds into the round and slowing people down. That's what makes those characters fun to players like Tom Brady, right, and many others like him. So
I understand you now, Dave.
Right, but
I
look,
understand
hold
the
on.
wording.
Dave is missing the point. Dave's missing the point. I'm not saying you can't slow the game down or get timeouts or this and that. You can do that, but the game has to feel a lot better than it currently does. Getting a timeout when the game is slow as hell.
Fun, feels, thinks. Those are all subjective terms. Do you realize that, right? Those by nature are
But
subjective.
I disagree with that. Let me tell you why, Rio. Because as an MK9 player, let me elaborate more. 'Cause I guess I talk about all this fun and play styles, but I don't really go into why I say these things, so people don't really understand. So a great example of MK9 versus like more modern combat. So 16-bit, infamous katana, crazy Dominican, great katana players, etc. Revolver was pretty good as well. I was really struggling with that matchup, and I'm like, what can I do? How can I get better at it? Now, if I'm an MK11 player, how can I get better at the matchup? Guess better. Period. Period. Oh man, I'm losing. They're blocking my overheads, blocking my lows. What am I? Well, mix better next time. Just for an example, a lot of these games, you don't really have the freedom to play more than that one way. So, for example, with Katana, I said, you know what? Why am I chasing her? I chased her for years. And I'm like, the truth is, if she has I don't care if she has full meter. If I get a 0.01% health lead, I can lame her out. Now, the beauty of this was this took extreme skill to do, in which I could never get hit. And to be able to do that at the highest level isn't something like, some scrubby play running away. I took a matchup that was obnoxiously not in my favor and turned it to one in which I at least gave myself a 60-40 shot, 40-60 shot of winning by doing something that was very difficult to do. Play a certain way and never get hit. And in tournament, I believe it came down to the last round of the last match of the last hit, and that's when I got the infamous standing for input bug, which will go down in infamy for me. But because I was like, of all the ways to lose, man, you just want to lose. You want to shake the guy's hand and say you were the better player, right? You don't want to lose like that. But to do so in a handicap match took extreme skill. See, some of the stuff you see in MK9, the modern player looks at or is told these stories about LOL, scrubby, but they don't realize how hard it was to actually do at the highest level in a matchup that was obnoxiously not in my favor. The freedom to be able to, and it was the perfect blend. Did the ice clone in those previous games carry me? Sure. But my skill as a player carried the character. It was the perfect blend of my strength as a player covered up the character weakness, and the character strength covered up my weakness, which is why I was able to be successful for so long in Mortal Kombat, because my character and what he does play different, but the freedom to express yourself and play that way and figure it out has always been there, which is why I lasted longer than anybody else in Mortal Kombat, because the character was always in. He's the only one who never missed. To be able to, like, I'm playing Rio's Cabal. Okay, what am I going to do? He's getting out of this. He's getting out of that. My corner game, when you see me 10-0 a lot of these Cabals, you don't see the stupid work I had to put in at the highest level against someone like Rio, in all the ways he would get out of what I was doing and find ways around it. So to be able to say, okay, I was playing Rio today. He was beating me pretty good, man, or in tournament, he beat me in tournament today. What can I really do? This strategy that Denzel Curry used against Perfect Legend, at least the first time around, PL obviously adapted to it the second time, and Denzel had to switch off Sub-Zero. But that was used by me on Forever King and Young MK Legend. I came up with that strategy for what PL was doing. And it was a very different way to fight Kung Lao. Now, I tried so many different ways, but in the modern game, the skill factor in doing things that are considered annoying really isn't there. It's easy to do. That's why it's so annoying, because everybody can do it. How many Sub-Zero players are going to fight Katana at the highest level and not get hit? Few and far between. A strategy like that today doesn't exist. And if it did, it would be very simple to execute to make it happen. But that freedom to be able to mold your character 2 and 3 years in and say, okay, now I'm going to do this, or I'm going to play it like this or like this. You play Terminator. I was watching Terminator. It's the same old jump kick in the overhead teardrop or the low, or whether it's the one string or now another into the overhead or the low option or the throw, call the assist to keep yourself safe, etc. That has not changed. They just pick a different string to do it off of. But in general, since the character came out, the overall idea, despite countless patches, countless nerfs, didn't change. Raiden. Oh, first it was Raiden and Cyrex. Then it was Raiden and Kano. And then it just didn't change until they finally fundamentally tried to change something about the character itself. But overall, characters just have a very straight and linear line, period. And it's because you don't really have that freedom to deviate from that straight line. The characters, and I understand what NRS is trying to do. Like Aaron Black, day one Aaron Black in MK11, here what it was. Back 2-2-2 scud shot. That's it. Back 2-2, that was it. That was the whole character. It was so, these characters, Geras, Runaway Sandtrap, day one Geras.
Actually, Aaron had a lot of good stuff on day one.
I know, Rio.
Like
exactly.
a ton of good stuff.
Hold on. But
wait, hold on. Let me say this,
because in variation 1, it was all.
Well, yeah, that was an issue with the variation. Let me say this, Tom. Regarding your Sub-Zero example in MK9, what you're saying is pretty much what I was describing earlier, because the game feels better and quicker and fluid. The reason why you were able to win some A2s in MK9 is because the game allowed you to move and actually, play. If these newer MK games or newer NRS games had A2s like MK9, they would be way harder to win in. Not because it's an A2, but because these newer games have clunkier movement. Everything is slower. Everything is one-dimensional. So imagine trying to play an A2 matchup in, let's say, MK12 or MK11, but the movement is so much worse in MK9. Your options in trying to play and move is limited through that alone. This is what I was saying earlier, is that for the next MK game, NRS has to have a really good foundation. That way, when people are playing matchups they don't like, at least they can move and try to do stuff, whereas they're stuck in mud. Like, for my example, for Injustice 1 Aquaman. When you can't jump against him, and you can't do whatever, it feels like you literally cannot play the game. Like, it just feels unfun, because the movement is so terrible. This is what made MK9 a little bit different in playing bad matchups compared to a game like Injustice 1.
Well, Rio, look.
I don't mean to.
Tom, let me ask you a question, please. Let me ask you a question. They loved zoning you until you zoned them, and how do they feel about that?
Ask Cetron players what happened with Johnny.
Exactly.
That character got nerfed quick.
Exactly.
Dave made
Again,
a great point.
It all comes out to the fact that people are hypocrites. They say they don't care about balance, they don't care about the stuff until it's done onto them. They're like, no, I don't want to deal with what? I'm a Cetron player. Why am I dealing with cage zoning me? I must,
Let me elaborate what Dave is saying for the viewers who may not understand. So Cetrion, during the original couple of maybe initial period of MK11, if people talked about Cetrion zoning, Cetron players were like, oh, you can't fight zoning, adapt, blah, 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 skill issue. Then they put a zoning variation of Johnny Cage.
Then they added the third variations, and Johnny had his happen to be a zoning variation, and explain
what
happened.
And it counter-zoned Cetrion. It wasn't necessarily a better zoner than Cetrion, but it counter-zoned Cetrion. His zoning was better against her than her zoning was against his. So literally, the only people really complaining about this were the Cetrion players, and they were just saying, we're a zoner. Why are we being zoned by Johnny? However, Johnny players, before this variation, were saying, we're the up-close characters. Why are we losing up-close to Cetrion? Right? Cetrion also had a very good up-close game. Cetrion players would tell Johnny players, skill issue, blah, blah, blah. Well, why are we losing up-close to you? Skill issue. Then, the minute Johnny did something better than Cetrion at Zoner, they complained and complained and complained, and there was one specific player who no longer plays, a prominent Cetrion player, who was at the forefront, probably the best Cetrion player in the world, on Twitter about why is Johnny doing this, blah, blah, blah. So eventually they nerfed it. What Dave is saying is, all you at home that say, shut the fuck up and die him to Dave, Tom is right. We want freedom. It sounds good until you are on the receiving end of what that freedom looks like. For example, I will play M2 Dave and I will enjoy it. I played him with Kung Lao. He beat me in tournament. I said, you know what, Kung Lao, for example, even though he's a much better character, he doesn't fit my skill set. I'm going to train. I'm going to learn the match with Sub-Zero. I'm going to fight Dave. I go to console combat. Dave puts me in losers. I reset the bracket, put him in losers. He beats me, wins the tournament. Even though he did win the tournament, I said I fought it very well. I was also able to reset it and put him in losers. And I the matchup wasn't fun for me because I was able to play my way, couldn't pull it out, came close. He played better and he won. And I was able to go home and say, despite the match being very difficult for me, I feel like I had a strategy that was good enough to win. I had my win situation that I worked hard to develop. And in those moments, he made the better plays, which is why he won, as opposed to going home and saying, fucking shit, fucking cheater character. So this is kind of the problem. But not everyone is like that. The modern player would not do that. All you were in the comments who were saying, die M2 Dave, if you had to fight that, you would say, nope, get it out. Not okay. Not okay. You would be okay if you were doing it, but not, or you're okay as long as freedom means your character that plays your way is doing well. The minute your character that plays your way comes across a problem that says, hey, when this character plays this guy's way, it ain't easy for you. Your result isn't, well, at least I can play my way and I'll figure out a way. It's get it out of the game. I don't like this anymore. That's what Dave is talking about, which is why there's really no right answer for this. Because when you scale it backwards and remove a lot of these things, people say the game is, not as much freedom. When you put those back in the game, no matter how much you guys in the comments may say you want it, if you were to experience it, you wouldn't want it anymore. That's what
exactly. And
let me say this real quick. In my opinion, it really depends on perspective. Like, for example, I don't mind playing against a heavy zoner getting zoned out. It just depends on the game. Like, I wouldn't mind playing against, Dave, if you're playing Freddy and MK1, I'm playing another character that loses, whatever. I would be fine playing that. However, if you're going to play a character with that kind of zoning and we're playing like Injustice or MK11 and the movement is very bad and I have to deal with that, that's probably not going to be very fun. And I can see where the thing is, like, some of these players nowadays, they never played some of the older MK games. So they're thinking in how these new clunky games feel. They're like, do I really want to play MK12 with like Freddy type zoning where the movement's already just, the game feels so slow? That I feel like that would just make the game worse, honestly. This is why I'm saying they need to go back to drawing board and redesign the game, its foundation, with how it functions, how it moves. You do not want to play a slow, clunky game with obnoxious zoning.
But Rio, I agree with you. But this is what I've tried to make you understand, and I'll get to Tom's talking point in a second here. By making the movement better, you nerf zoning. So you have to make it better some other way. I'm not saying it should be.
So then you have to make the zoning better when you make the movement better. And because the movement is better, the zoning can be made better.
No, but here's the thing, though. The way Freddy's zoning worked in MK is he had frame traps. If you were to incorporate how Freddy's zoning works in this game, in MK12, where you block anything, you get frame trapped, the game would fall apart because it cannot handle that. So if you're going to have a game with strong, interesting zoners, then you need to have the game feel a lot more fluid than it is right now. These newer games.
No, I agree, but also I would say that MK9 had better characters, had higher power levels overall, right? And let me just comment on this because Tom gave me props, and not by definition, I kind of have to do it, but I'm not doing it just to, get on my knees and, you gotta get the imagery. But yes, Tom, the reason I respect Tom, and I always will, because yes, he did come out to Console Combat, which used to be an event in North Ohio, and I played him, and he shook my hand. I was like, dude, that was great zoning. A lot of other people, by the way, in the same community would spit in my face. It was like, dude, I lost fair and square. I'm not saying the man complains. He never did. I'm just saying everybody has comments on balance. And to deny that is just not accurate. Tom, you would agree with that. Come on, man.
I would agree to it. And even some of my talks about armor, I guess it did affect the balance in some way as well. I mean, I guess, but for me, and I want to change the pivot here because I heard some of this with Roy Archon. When Rio was talking about what NRS does is they do a lot of these band-aid systems that are necessary. In other words, you don't need a variation system NRS is trying to remove the bad matchups. I mean, every fighting game is going to have them. And in trying to implement some gimmicky system, the reason why the variation system was there is the audience don't know this. We were there in testing. So when Paulo and Ed Boon and everyone sat us down in the cafeteria during lunch, they explained their logic behind the variation system. There were some people that wanted to just play their one character, that didn't like bad matchups, that didn't want to have to play 30 characters. The variation system was supposed to be a way to say, oh, well, maybe if your character loses in one variation, they can go to another variation and still be, and now it's a different matchup. So you're a master of your character. You have 3 variations. It gives you multiple options with your character, as opposed to my character loses, pick another character. And in some instances, as with every half-baked NRS idea, it works. There were some characters that had 2 or all 3 variations that were very good. But then Sub-Zero is a great example only because of the power of the Ice Clone. When a character has a move like that, you default have to give the character certain drawbacks to match the power of one of their moves. Well, the problem is when you remove a move so powerful and you replace it with the other variations with moves that are not as powerful, but the drawbacks to the character are obviously part of their kit, those moves are not able to overcome those drawbacks. So whatever was beating you in your one variation, when you switch to the other ones, they're still capitalizing on those weaknesses. And what you have is now a much weaker version of that character, not a better or different version. Quan Chi said this as well. He was very powerful in Summoner, very powerful in Sorcerer, when he could sit on armor portals or vortex you to death. Extremely powerful. You have to give the character some drawback when they can do that. So when you remove those 2 variations and give him Warlock, it's just terrible because his drawbacks are nowhere near way too weak to withstand having something different, but just not very strong. Then there were other characters who were kind of very balanced in how their specials are, and they didn't really, they could play all 3 of them because they didn't have as many drawbacks. The variation system that's just one reason. It was flawed for a million different. And then a custom variation system made it even worse. What Rio said against Roy Archon was one of the best things when he was talking about breakers. And Rio was trying to make him understand about the combos, how long they are. And he said, okay, well, Roy, just remove the breaker then. And Roy said, oh my gosh, then the combos will be so long. And Rio goes, you see, when you remove the Band-Aid, you see the real problem. And we see this in a lot of things. The anti-airs. The jabbing out of the air, that's what Mortal Kombat is. Mortal Kombat has always been this. For them to take away what Mortal Kombat has always been in lieu of trying to make the game easier so you can like they made movement worse but wanted to make jumping better to keep the illusion of the fast speed, as opposed to keeping movement really good and allowing anti-air to be more consistent. And then because they did that, then they had to make a Band-Aid for the jumping, and now we have this up block system. And there was nothing wrong with the old anti-airs. There was nothing wrong with them. It's been in Mortal Kombat for years.
See, that's the thing though. It has always been in certain games, but not all the games. It hasn't been that way in Deception or Armageddon.
Well, Deception was a 3D game, so
I know. I'm just saying,
you don't jump.
But Deception didn't have good jumping. That's why I didn't have good anti-airs.
No, I understand that, but that's what I mean. It's all preferences. I know I keep mentioning this, but that's literally what it all is. It depends what you like and what you don't. I'm okay with jab anti-airs. I think they're better than up block. But it's in that in MKX, in which we were promised, guys, 5 nerfs to jumping attacks and then 5 buffs to uppercuts. It's NRS, I'm sorry, you're not doing it. It doesn't work. I still cannot anti-air. You guys are failing at this. Just can I just bring back armor at that point? If you guys can't get this right, for the 5th time in a row, can I at least anti with armor? And obviously, Rio and Tom would call that a Band-Aid. But it's just they're not doing it.
It's because the way you implement armor is bad. If armor is supposed to exist in the game as you want it to be an anti-air, then why does it work and you use it nonstop for not an anti-air? Can you explain that?
I'm not excusing. I'm just saying if these guys are not going to end anti after the 5th try of so-called buffs and nerfs to jumping attacks, Well, in order to play the game and anti-air, people like obviously just gonna jump, and obviously you see it coming, and obviously you still cannot anti-air. Then I'm like, you know what? Just give us armor. Like the game is already ruined. Just do it. That's all I'm saying, man.
But here's the problem, though. So look, and I'm going to use MK12 as an example. It does not feel good in this game when you read a jump on someone and they weren't ready to enter, and then right before you make it to them, you're like, "Oh my god, is he going to uplock or not last second? What do I do?" I mean, how many times do I have to guess here? I already made the jump because you conceded neutral. I made the read to jump on you. Now I have the last second for my jump in. Guess if you're going to tap up and block, the easiest input ever. I mean, that's not enjoyable to get parried here.
Also,
I
it's a
feel like they
stupid
need
mind
to go.
game.
They need to just bring back anti-airs, man. If you see someone jump, then just let us anti-air them. We don't have to guess this. Am I going to upblock? Am I do
You
this?
still have to read. People did jump in MK9. If we weren't ready for it, they still did jump. And so basically, what happens is you jump,
True.
and then you, as the person on the ground, are like,
Well, because here's
I don't
why.
think-
Look, I want to explain it because a lot of people haven't played MK9, so they're going to be like, "Well, how did people jump in MK9 if they were anti-air jabs?" Well, two reasons. One, jumps were fast as hell in MK9. When you jumped up in there, you landed quickly. It wasn't like these newer games where you jump in there, you're floating like a balloon, and you can see it coming. It wasn't like that. Second of all, the ground game and speed was very fast in MK9. So when you're in like that footsie spacing with like against Katana, Johnny, Cabal, didn't matter who it was, you had to look out for a lot of stuff. Is Johnny going to come up in 4-3 you? Is Katana dash up 2-1? Is she going to bait you into something? Is she going to sneak a jump in? Like, you had to be kind of making a read at that point. You couldn't just sit there, be playing footsies perfectly fine, and then anti-airing at the same time. It didn't work like that. You had to pick an option and go with it. And that's what kind of made that game fun, is it was fast, but there was never a match in MK9, no matter what match you look at, where jumping never ever worked and it was useless. There was always times you could sneak in a jump because the game speed was just very fast and the jumping was very fast.
No, I agree with you.
yeah. Not only
And-
that, not only that though.
Go ahead.
Like
Yeah,
like-
go ahead.
when Rio talks about like make games more skill based, somebody jumps at you, and you want to anti-air, but it's like, okay, are they going to empty jump or not? So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to anti-air them, and they're like, oh, I'm going to do a stupid, obnoxious hitbox move now and hit you. Okay, I'm going to uplock them. Fool you, empty jump. Haha, gotcha, bitch. It's stupid. I read it. In order to read jumps, you are conceding other things. The reason why jumping works in fighting games is one, MK9, the jumping was very fast. But two, what they weren't obnoxious, because right now you could do a jumping attack at the very peak of your jump and it will still connect even if you're crouching on the way down. In MK9, if you did that, your move would completely miss. The person crouching with the move would just whiff them and it wouldn't be active anymore. So you had to, you got off the ground faster, but you had to actually do the jump attack closer to them, which gave them more time to anti-air if they read it. However, if you're going to read an anti-air, you're conceding other territory. So it was a fast game. So Johnny, you think he's going to jump, and he doesn't, and he just gets up on you. It'll be like in an instant. So the game was very fast. So you had to read like what they were doing in footsies, if they were going to jump, etc. It wasn't as simple as, wow, I didn't expect it. Let me go ahead and anti-air it now for a reason. And there was a lot of skill to that. Up block is a band-aid mechanic, and I wish they would just go back to, because it was just so people say, well, if you jab somebody out of the air, why can't you just do that now? It's MK has become a series of band-aids on top of each other, and I know MK can change, but Street Fighter DP is still anti-air. Street Fighter still has a Street Fighter systems in other areas. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I understand you could parry and third strike and whatever, when you jump in, or amongst other things in other games. However, my point is that this was Mortal Kombat has always been that way. There's no reason to take it out. And to Rio's point, the reason why I wasn't in the 3D is because the jumping's good, so there was no reason for it.
Well, let me say this as someone who still plays MK1, jumping is not an issue in that game. If you get jumped on, it's a skill issue. Why? Very simple. If you uplock, let's say using even Lee May, right? A character's supposed to be like mid-tier, whatever, low mid-tier. She's going to hit you with 50%. And if your opponent empty jumps and you uplock, you're going to eat like, what, 16, 17%. Now, Tom and Rio and our audience was like, oh my God, you are against traditional anti-airs. No, I'm not. Bring back the traditional anti-airs. I'm okay with it. It's going to help me out anyway. Like, I'm going to zone you, jump. I'm going to, one you into full screen, whatever. But as somebody who still plays the game to this day, jumping is a complete non-issue. It's a non-topic. It's not an issue.
It's not a non-issue
Why?
because it's the Band-Aid mechanic. Also, many people have made the
You can
argument.
call it whatever you want. I'm just saying the entire system works. It doesn't mean I support
Also, somebody
uplock.
up-locking me, somebody that had no idea was going to jump and not up-locking me until I was 3/4 of the way down. No. That is, if they reacted because they were not expecting it, at that way in any other game, they would not be able to anti-air. To have such a mindless anti-air creates such a stupid jumping. And then
So now wait a minute. The jumping is too strong, but now we have minus anti-air. Stop. Make up your fucking mind, bro.
Dude,
Like, which
what
one
I'm saying
it?
is to do it is one, there's no skill in it, and two, there's still a stupid mind game of anti, you're not jumping, empty jump, and hold on. And then there's this stupid thing of, but you can anti-air because you have an uplock, but there's the mind game, empty jump or not empty jump. And you could also make the argument of, well, the person landing does 18% is nothing compared to the full combo they're going to get for upblocking you. But then people always bring up, but almost everyone has some type of throw combo now.
Yeah, just to say, what Tom is saying
but
is
throw
that
combo is also a band-aid.
Yeah, those are bad
punishment.
too. The throw combos into like Goro into like Half-Life or whatever. Let me just say this. So what Tom is saying is this. He's saying that this mechanic doesn't feel good on both sides. You could be jumping on somebody, they uplock you last second, it doesn't feel fun.
None of this means, sorry, my friend, none of these means anything.
Can I please say something? That means it feels terrible. It does not feel enjoyable. Let me explain.
That means nothing.
But I'm trying to explain to you the uplock. Can I say something real quick? The uplock does not. The uplock is the same issue with the breaker issue. When you're using a breaker, it does not feel fun when you don't have it and you have to watch this long 20-second combo. But at the same time, when you play against someone and you make a good read, whatever, and then they break on you, it also doesn't feel good. So the problem with uplock is the same. Okay, I understand you love the game and you don't mind it, but what I'm saying is these situations do not feel good on both sides. So when they feel like that, why are they in the game?
What does feel mean? Yeah, what are these verbs that we're using? That means nothing to me. Feel.
Let me break it down to you. What does that mean? Let me break it down to you. Nothing. In MK12, if I read, I don't know, Melina doing a YOLO roll and I want to get my combo now, yes, I could do uppercut, whatever. But if I just want to punish her and I don't have 2 bars, what I have to do is now see her break her my combo. That to me does not feel good. It feels awful to play. This has been an issue, but this is not exclusive to MK12. Breakers always felt awful since it's been introduced over 20 years ago. I don't know why it's still in the game.
I mean, you liked MK. Did you think MK11 was a good game?
I thought it was better than Injustice and MKX competitively.
Fair enough, but did you like the breakaway system? Did you like the wake up system? Did you enjoy the crushing blows? Did you enjoy the fatal blows?
No, I did not like the fatal blows and did not like the crushing blows because those were unavoidable. However, the breakaways and wake-up rolls, you could avoid those. The other two, no. That's why I despise
avoid
the things like
which
fatal blows.
You used. Because if you use Cabal, then you essentially ignore the system. If you use
but here's the thing with Cabal and all these characters you mentioned, none of them could avoid crushing blows or fatal blows. They had to deal with it. The problem with breakers, and also this ties in with uplock, nobody can avoid them. They're engraved into the game no matter who you play, when you play. You always have to deal with them. And for players like me, I do not find them enjoyable mechanics. When someone hits me with them, when I'm using them with someone, they're not skillful. They're just there as band-aids that go over a ton of issues. Because if you remove uplock and if you remove breakers, then all of a sudden now combos are a problem. And now jumping is all of a sudden a problem, even though it technically isn't right now because of uplock.
As somebody who still plays MK12, I believe it has the best anti-air system since MK9. I'm not saying that's what I want. I still prefer MK9's jab system. But the reason why jumping attacks
can I just say this? Because I don't know why people always associate MK9 anti-airs with only jabs being good and that was it. No. There was a ton of good anti-airs in MK9. It was from jabs to roundhouses to uppercuts to anti-air specials. There were a ton. It was very diverse with all these anti-airs. I just want to say that because for some reason I don't want people to think that MK9 only had one kind of anti and that was it, just jabs. It wasn't that. You had so many antis to choose from. There was a lot.
Jabs are what the like that's what people remember smoke for. That's what people remember, like Johnny Cage for, et cetera, right? I don't give a damn about being hit by Cyrax's anti-air grab. I care about being jabbed into 50%. That's what people actually cared about, right? Because that's to do with the risk reward ratio. So let's keep it honest with the audience. With that said, again, I repeat.
Yeah, but Dave's not.
There was no
Kung
reason.
Lao, when Kung Lao anti spun you got a full combo. When Cabal anti roundhouse you, which people found hype in tournament matches, you got a full combo. So all these other anti weren't good. Only jabs were. That's completely
okay
false.
That. But I think I dislike the narrative that like MK12 is bad anti-air. It just isn't true. Like it just isn't.
I'm not
true.
saying MK12 has bad anti-airs. I'm saying I do not like uplock. Where did I? This is about uplock.
Oh, I mean, no, exactly. You don't like it. Good. Okay. And like I like it.
And well, I'm explaining why I don't like it.
Well, I'm explaining why I do like it. And again, it comes down to preferences.
Dave, why do you like it over like a jab anti-air?
Yeah, I want to hear your opinion. Why do you like it over anti-air specials, anti-air roundhouses, anti-air uppercuts, anti-air jabs? I want to hear that.
I don't. I prefer again.
So wait. You don't like it over those options? Then why are you arguing with us?
Talk. I will answer your question. Are you going to let me talk? Thank you. So I do prefer MK9's entire system. I'm just saying I'm trying to be as polite as possible. If there's a patch that claims, guys, we nerfed the jumping attacks and we buffed the uppercuts. It's like, guys, you didn't. We're still kind of anti-air. I'm referring to MKX, right? It's like you guys can get it. You guys are not getting this right.
Okay, so what you're saying is NRS is incapable of for MK13 making anti-airs function without some kind of gimmick like uplock.
It depends on the game, right? One of the reasons why I highly dislike MK11 is because the anti-airs are really bad, and I'm like on a bad connection. I'm forced to do a flawless block up 2, right? Why? I should be able to anti-air you very easily, and I did use Jade, who was an excellent down 2. But as you know, guess what? They're gonna hit by up 2, by my down 2, and guess what? They're gonna jump again, right? Because the risk reward doesn't match their jumping attack risk reward, especially with like Jackie, as Tom used to say, or even like Fujin, Cabal. They're never gonna stop jumping because the reward just isn't there for your anti-airs. So it's like at that point, yeah, just give me uplock. If you guys are not gonna fix this issue, then quote unquote, yes, band-aid it and give us an option. That's all I'm saying.
Right, but you're talking about MK11. We're talking about MK12, and also I'm not saying this should change the match for MK12. I'm talking about what I want for MK13. So it's like 3 different conversations happening regarding anti-airs.
Well, not really.
What you're saying is MK12 anti-airs is fine. What I'm saying is why I don't like them, and what I'm saying is what I want to see for MK13. But yet you're saying you like uplock, but yet you're saying you like the jab system. So what do you want from MK13 then? Do you want uplock to return or not?
I like uplock, but I feel like the ideal solution are the MK9 anti-airs. So we're not really disagreeing. I'm just saying if these guys, quote unquote, they fix the anti-airs of certain games, but they still don't work. At that point, yes, give us the band-aid.
But you're talking about MKX. You have to say that. You're talking about MKX.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about many games, not just MKX. Uplock in MK12, Armor in MKX, right?
Yeah, well, you were a late bloomer to that problem in MKX because me and many others realized anti-airs were very bad in day 1 of MKX. It took you 2 years to realize that because again, sadly, you had
that argument.
Because you had a lot of band-aids. I'm not going to blame you. It was the game shielding you from a lot of the flaws it had. You were in love with one of the band-aid mechanics, which is fine. You can like armor, but the way you used armor,
I like armor.
You don't like armor?
I love armor. I think armor was the solution to MKX, and any moron who was against it ruined the game for me, and I still stand by that.
Well, that's a hot take because I think honestly, and this is this could be a controversial topic, but I think the last patch of MKX was a better game than the previous versions. The previous versions before that were a joke in terms of like skill level and what constitutes like good and
Well,
bad.
let me say this, my friend. You asked me for games on MKX. What did I tell you?
You refuse to play because you don't like MKX.
No, I didn't like the last version. Let's give people the context. I didn't
Right,
like the
but the last version of MKX was like a decade ago, Dave.
Well, I didn't like the last version of the game. And when people came over to fight me in MKX, guys, guess what we did?
We're compromising with. Here's the problem. There's a bunch
Tom,
of issues.
Tom,
Here's a bunch of
The issue is
let
Dave
me-
doesn't.
Tom,
Here's the problem. Dave waits for it to be too late.
Go.
No, but Dave waits for it to
Let
be
me just
too
say this.
late before to address the issues. Here's the thing with MKX. During the time, the whole time it was getting patched, where were you saying, hey, man, the answers should get looked at? I was constantly saying the answers are bad. They need to get fixed.
You guys were looked at. Thank you for proving my point. They said they buffed them. They didn't.
Yes, but
So when you
sometimes to make
have
answers
5%,
better, it takes more than just, hey, increase the hitbox slightly and made it faster at one frame.
Well,
No,
hold
they need.
on. Let Dave finish what he's saying because I want to make sure I understand him before I chime in.
Tom, let me just make,
Okay,
make
go
this
ahead,
quick
Dave.
point. I promise. So they did buff. At least they claimed to buff the anti-airs 5 times. By the way, 5 times they buffed the anti-airs. 5 times they nerfed the jumping attacks, and we still couldn't anti-air. So I'm still playing him like, dude, like what the fuck, like what is going on, like.
Well,
If
what
you
do you
guys
mean?
can
What is
get it
going
right-
on? You can see what's going on. Look at the characters from MK9 to MKX. What is different? Let's look at Kung Lao. Why is Kung Lao's anti-air spin so much better in MK9 than MKX? Well, for starters, it's faster in MK9. Second, it has a radial hitbox around it, like a huge radius tornado that extends. It doesn't have that in MKX. They removed that. So you got to look at it and be like, why are these not working? I guess NRS never took the time to go look at MK9 and be like, why is this game anti-air is better? They have to, like, a lot of their patches, which you also left out, was them saying slightly adjusted the hit region or slightly decreased the hit region. The reason why a lot of anti-airs were good in MK9 is because it was more than just slightly adjusted the hit region. They had a lot of properties. Even anti-air throws in MK9, like Stark's anti-air throw, had invincibility if you were airborne, things like that, which were nowhere to be seen in MKX. That was completely removed on so many moves. That's why the anti-air sucked.
If anyone listening has MK9,
You
go
tested
ahead
the
and
game.
go ahead and
Tom,
put the computer on
I'm
dock.
sorry, Tom,
No, I'm
let
sorry.
me just say this.
Go finish.
Thank you. Sorry. Let me just say, you guys took the game for them. Maybe that's the way they want MKX to play. Like, I'm sorry, that might just be the cold hard fact, right? I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying they want you to armor with anti-air. So I'm not gonna be an idiot and argue against armor.
But
like,
no, here's where you're wrong. If they wanted armor to be antis, they would have never removed them in the last patch. So
yeah, that's why the game sucked at the last
so
patch.
armors
Thank you.
don't.
That's
So
why I
no,
don't play
no.
it.
This Dave,
That's
this
why the
means
game
you're.
was garbage at the
But
last
this
patch.
means you're wrong though, because it goes against what you said. The reason why they removed armors for anti-air means that they were
That
never
one
supposed to
armor.
function like that. Armors
No,
were
I
not in the
want more
game.
armor.
No, they were not. Armors were not in the game for an anti-air. Otherwise, it would never touch them. They were
Obviously.
in there to give some form of defense. We could throw them out randomly, which is the worst way to do defense, in my opinion.
Well, again, at that point, the game was kind of ruined anyway. I think MKX needed more armor, not less, considering the way the game played. They tried their best to, like, I guess, make it more like defensive, which was a complete joke. I mean, you guys could judge for yourself.
Look, Dave, I'm not trying to be rude
rude
here, but I feel like the more you talk about MKX, the more I realize you did not play the game. Because what they did in the last patch was they did give some characters more armor than they ever had. Characters like Liu Kang, Katana, etc. now had multi-hitting armor attacks. And this made the game even worse in some aspects because characters that used to be able to fight them and have a chance for now get completely demolished. Like take, for example, the character I was playing, Hunter Predator. I could no longer do any setup on Liu Kang or Katana and these other characters because now they could at any time armor, multi-hitting. I had no way to stuff it, and the matchup just became bad. So your solution of the game needed more armor, no, that actually made the game worse.
They messed up by not giving Aaron Black armor, more armor. Because when you have a game that's all offensive, which is essentially what MKX is, such a 50-50 run-up meta, pressure, then yeah, you need something at least somewhat in the realm of equivalency in terms of defense. And if you understand the game, you played it, you claim I know nothing, fair enough. I'm not going to make it personal.
No, I'm not claiming you know nothing. I'm saying it seems like you know a lot less than you think about MKX.
Well, I think I know just enough to know that the only defensive mechanic, quote unquote, in the game was always always revolved around armor. I mean, this is not even debatable. I mean, you backdash with a ship backdash, and you lose your stamina. Why? They were never gonna change that ever. They were never gonna make zoning better. They were not gonna make. They tried to make anti-airs better. They failed. So it's like, you know what? Just give us armor. Obviously, give us more armor. Give it to all characters.
Dave, I feel like Dave is misremembering the history of MKX. The game had armor for 2 years. A lot of people complained. I don't know why you're acting like everybody loved it and it was fine. It was the best thing about MKX. That was not how the game went.
A lot of people complain about a lot of stuff in
You
MKX.
may have some memory loss, but players like me unfortunately remember everything about MKX, and I remember every day, every month, every week going to someone's stream, watching some.
Why you playing a game you hate? I don't
actually,
understand.
I didn't make videos I did not make YouTube videos complaining about this. What I'm saying is, I would go to people. You know what's funny? I would watch people on Twitch play MKX just to hear them complain, because it was hilarious to listen to what they would say. And every stream I would go to, it'd be like, "Oh my god, Molina armor launcher, this armor launcher, that wow, he did armor there. Wow, Johnny armor." Dave, the thing is, no, but dude, you got to keep it real with people. If you're gonna tell them how a game was, then be honest with how it was. Back then, armor was not perceived as this amazing mechanic that people loved. It was not that. It was the complete opposite of what you're saying.
What else did people complain about aside from armor?
Well, the 50/50s, the vortexes,
why?
The bland gameplay.
Exactly.
Right, but I'm just making sure they know that, because some of these players probably weren't there during MKX.
Sure
armor was not this amazing thing that you made it seem during MKX. It was not
amazing. I'm just saying it was an evil necessity. People complain about a lot of stuff in MKX, right? Like you said, the 50/50 mix-ups, the vortexes, the pressure. All I'm saying is...
no, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, like, it's been 10 years since MKX. I've accepted the game for what it is. It's been a decade, dude. I know what the game is. That's why you don't hear me complaining about it nonstop, about this and that. So, like...
Well, I'm being consistent. I don't play the last version of the game because I think the game needed better defensive mechanics. And unfortunately, it came down to armor. It's not my preference, but if you're going to have limited zoning, limited defense, a crap backdash that requires resources... then no, I don't like the last version of the game, and I still stand.
Right, you have the right to like the last version or not, but please don't act like the last version was better when it wasn't. You had some of the most brain dead stuff in the last. You had characters like Devora doing the most brain dead 50/50s with our 4-2. Like, if that is supposed to be the better version of the game, and what version everybody should have been playing, like Alien jumping in the air doing overhead 50/50s and stuff. No thanks, I'll pass on that. I'd rather play the last version.
Here's the thing: when you
can make up their own mind because it's based.
Listen. The thing is, the reason why things go around in circles is MK games are kind of weird, in that if you talk about each issue individually, you kind of lose the point. It's all collective, and that's kind of the problem here. A great example is, like, if I break down things in MK11 and try to say, oh well, the variation system, whatever, and then Freedom and an Aaron Black. Well, for example, the problem with Aaron Black wasn't like a matter of freedom. It was you released a game that had 2 variations to start, in which many characters, if you picked variation 2 or whatever, you were playing the quote unquote wrong variation. So a game that had a custom variation mode went almost a year, in which you only had 1 variation for character. It was just stupid. The variation system had many flaws, that being one of them. The point is, when you look at MK9 obviously had his issues. A lot of MK9's issues was bug related. Like Cyrex, we all know about that. Nobody liked it. Let's be honest here. I'll be the first to say, look, I'm not going to shy away from it. Did I like... Cyrex was a character that you love to watch it happen to somebody else, and you would curse the game if it was you. But they could not fix it. Smoke, in his 100%, they could not fix it. So the problem is, the way the game was coded, it could not be fixed. It wasn't like a balance issue. That's how the game was. They were bound by the technology of that time, and the way they put the game together, that couldn't be fixed. Same thing with things like Sonya. Very easy. Sonya's safe EX cartwheel, let's just say an easy solution. Let's just take the easiest thing to say that even a kid off the street can do. Make it -30 so it's not safe. They couldn't do that because it was tied to the regular cartwheel. To make it -30 means you have to give it more recovery. If you give it more recovery, then you give the same recovery to the regular cartwheel, and the recoveries were tied on hit and block. Then the extra recovery frames must also happen to both moves on hit, which means neither would be able to combo either. just the way the game was coded was really weird. So when people look and critique some of the issues in MK9 without realizing why they exist, it's not. If MK9 had the benefit of modern technology, these things would not have persisted. MK9 was really the closest track to where you'd want an NRS game to be. Just the technology and how it was put together did not permit them to get it there. Then we look at MKX. MKX started everything going downhill. For some reason, they decided that the game needed to have a lot of injustice features put in the game. One, an MKX, they just decided everything has to be a 50-50. During test, Paulo removed all the 50-50s for a day, and myself and Rio were playing matchups, and we were like, this game, we couldn't kill anybody. We were like, this game...
Just be careful with the NDA stuff, please.
No, I'm not getting into detail on it. I'm just saying that they removed the 50-50s for a day. Yeah, I got you. They removed the 50-50 for a day. And we were like, what do we do? We realized in that moment that there was no way around it. The game was going to be bound to that. Everything was about 50-50, overhead low, get in quick, etc. And the jump-ins were obnoxious. Now, myself and Rio talked about the jump-ins constantly. And really, their answer was armor. Well, you're going to use armor this, armor that. And this is where the kind of the Band-Aid was. First, they wanted these 50-50s. In order for 50-50s, the game has to be fast. We have a run, but sometimes running isn't enough. They want running and jumping and craziness. So we made obnoxious anti-airs. And a way to combat some of the offense and some of these oppressive systems is, a bunch of armor. And armor that obviously you could use it offensively, but defensively, if the person just was going to be obnoxiously jumping, obnoxiously coming in and pressing, you had not just an armor move, but an armored launcher. This was big. The problem is, in a game that has 50-50, some of these armored moves also doubled as 50-50 tools. And they would give like an EX move, not one buff, but 30. A move might be a mid. Okay. And then it's an EX. Now it's mid, can be done in the air. I mean, now it's an overhead, not a mid, can be done in the air, is also a launcher, is a little safer. Like, bro, you gave 30 perks to one move, one bar. And because it was an overhead, like Alien, the problem wasn't that Alien's armored launcher was an armored launcher. The problem was it was an airborne, overhead, armored launcher, and she also had an armored low. So even on knockdown, you want to pressure, it's like, hey, dog, you don't really want to take this armored launcher, do you? So you have to stand up and block. It's an overhead armored launcher. Fool you! Low tail. Haha, gotcha, bitch. Like, it was stupid. They were so powerful, and they doubled this 50-50 tools. But you didn't need armor like that. You just needed to have a game that it could be fast-paced and even run. The run and the pace wasn't the problem. The problem was you're running in at light speed, and you can't block because everything's a 50-50. And then you pile on the jump-ins, and one Band-Aid, one bad idea led to a bunch of Band-Aids on top of it, on top of it, on top of it, on top of it.
Yeah,
That's
also,
kind of the
Tom, you didn't mention some characters didn't have the Band-Aid for them. Like, remember, in MKX in the beginning, some characters didn't have armor launchers, like Jackie's or whatever, and they literally could not enter. It was that bad.
No, I agree. That's I'm making the case that the game should have had, because those like an universal. Everybody should have had like a universal armor anti-air mechanic, because if you're not going to fix the issue and you're going to make us play the game, well, obviously I'm being a little bit dramatic here. If you're going to play the game, right, like give us some type of universal mechanic. And I think they kind of proved that armor was going to be that universal mechanic. Of course, they didn't apply to every character, which was a travesty, right? However, if you're not going to fix the basic issues of the game, quote unquote, band-aid it, then make every character have it. Like, I think that's kind of obvious at this point.
Right, but honestly, like, I think MKX is fine. Like, I think they should just leave it how it is, because I mean, it's been 10 years.
Well, I mean, they're not gonna, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I feel like we're talking too much about MK11 and MKX for some reason. If you guys mind, like, I want to take it back to the tournament, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about in the, for this episode before we got sidetracked. MK11. I just didn't want to shut down the conversation. But to chime in what you mentioned earlier, Dave, about pieces of the ceiling falling onto people at this tournament that happened. What is the Final Combat? How does that happen? Was this tournament held in like an abandoned building? Like, I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to envision it because I didn't get to watch tournament because I wasn't home this weekend. But from what I'm hearing is that players were playing and that apparently pieces of the ceiling are crumbling down and falling on them. Like, this sounds insanely dangerous, and I hope nobody
Well,
got
I
seriously
wasn't.
hurt.
Yeah, well, me neither. I wasn't there, so I'm not gonna comment like on the specifics. And Twitter, people on Twitter like to exaggerate a lot, so it's difficult to find out what's reality and what isn't. And other players, they lost, they're salty because obviously we know that has happened before. So I'm not really sure,
Right, but what I'm
like
saying,
what
did you
the
get to watch any of the tournament? Did you and Tom get to watch any of it?
I've watched. I'm still catching up on some of the matches. I'm not gonna spoil anything.
But was
I,
this held in like a building that looked stable, or like what was it like? How'd the venue
I've
look from what you
seen,
saw?
yes, I've seen like the background. To me, it looked fine. Honestly, it looked fine to me. I don't know what the specific. All I'm gonna say is like I've never seen SonicFox be this mad, and again, I'm still catching up. I don't want to like spoil it for people or talk about stuff that I haven't seen. And I honestly, I generally believe this might be best saved for another like episode. Once we get all the facts out, once we hear out all the players, right? Instead of like speculating and not saying you're doing it, but like obviously Twitter's gonna make up like false
Yeah,
narratives.
okay.
I
So
don't
what you're
know what.
saying is the ceiling probably didn't fall on anybody or pieces of it.
I don't know. It's Cherney like messaged me some stuff from SonicFox, and SonicFox seemed like he was really really mad. Based on the fact that they apparently interrupted one of the matches in which he was participating. I don't know all the details. I don't know all the results. And literally, I'm still like, as you're recording, I'm watching right now. Gur against Scorpion Prox. It's zero. It's 0-0. So I don't know. Like I think this is honestly a topic I kind of need to wait up on and wait until more facts get released before we comment on the specific details. In my humble opinion.
No, that's fair to say. I was also getting messages earlier today by like someone who was
Yeah.
watching a tournament, and they were giving me some stuff. I guess I don't know. Some people want to message me stuff about MK1. I guess to get my reaction to it, or they, I don't. Sometimes I can't tell if they're exaggerating or they want to see me like reply to it in a certain way
Exactly.
to have a laugh at it. But they did say Sonic was going crazy on Twitter, and they've never saw Sonic like this. And I just went to Twitter right now to take a look. And from what I'm seeing, this is what Sonic has to say. And I guess this is why Sonic is really mad. He said, and he tweeted this 2 hours ago, "Bro, they really stopped Connie and I mid-match to fix audio instead of waiting after the round. I'm actually so over this tournament." Then he
That's because
says,
when it went on live on HBO Max, when it went live, it didn't have audio for the first 20 minutes of HBO Max.
"Wait, so it was on TV and it didn't have audio for everybody?"
It was also streamed on HBO Max for subscription, and apparently it didn't have audio for the first 20 minutes, so they had to pause things and fix the audio.
That's very unfortunate. I feel bad for Sonic having to go through that. I could imagine like you're playing a tournament match. I don't know how the match was going in like the heat of the moment, but when you're focused like that, it's almost like wasted adrenaline and energy you're putting into the match to have it restarted and go through all that. I went through a similar thing at I remember KIT for MKX where I had to redo my entire pool matches because one of the TOs accidentally had me play someone that I shouldn't have. So whenever that happens, yeah, it definitely puts you in a sour state to want to play. But Sonic, yeah, but what Sonic said, tweet after was, and he says, and I quote, "I was biting my tongue the entire weekend, but they have managed to fuck up literally every possible step from the seating to the venue falling apart to literally interrupting me mid Connie set. At this point, I don't really care. I just want to leave." Wow, so I didn't even know that they messed up the seating. On top of that, like, what do you know any of the details on that? Like, did they have certain good players play against each other that they weren't supposed to, or did they have like USA play against USA? You know,
Well, as somebody who still follows the game, I really can't give a concrete answer on this particular topic. Uh, Obviously, it's a Final Combat event, so the groups will be stacked, right? I don't know if that's necessarily a legitimate complaint. However, I do feel like we, by we, I mean like the community in general, we kind of owe it to our players to treat them right, to make sure that if, I mean, you can't have an event in which like stuff is falling on their heads. I mean, that's just it. I mean, that's the joke. Like, what I mean, like back in the cave, like cave era. Like, come on, like, right?
I
So
honestly
we
can't
can't have
tell what's
like,
worse: us playing in bathrooms in MK9. You guys, for those of you that weren't here back then during MK9, it was very depressing. Some tournaments, because this was back when MK didn't really have a tournament scene and it was just getting its foot into the scene. I'm glad you guys don't have to go through this now, but back then at some tournaments from MK9, they had no space for us to play. So they were like, we were like, where are we going to run this tournament? We want to do MK9 here. And they were like, well, go in the bathroom. There's outlets there. So people were having to play pool matches while somebody's entering a stall and taking a shit. That was where our scene was at during MK9. That's what we had to play through. Absolutely horrendous. So it's sad that in a way it feels like this tournament.
Tekken scene was actually worse.
It was worse than playing in bathrooms. Holy hell!
Yeah, Tekken. But so apparently this happened. The Sonic Kanamani thing was not a sound thing. That was afterwards. I don't know why that was stopped, and I don't want to say the result of that. But
I mean, I don't want to like, we don't want to spread
by
like.
Sonic's tweet, you
I'm
already
not
know the
saying he's
result.
doing it. Yeah,
Obviously,
we don't know kind of the tournament's still going on, so we don't know what's going on. I prefer to,
Yeah,
maybe
no, I'm not saying I know. So I'm just reading what Sonic is saying because he was there. But let me just read two more Sonic tweets because, in my opinion, Sonic, and like he mentioned this in his tweet, but he's not known as someone who complains, right, or overreacts when tournaments. He usually,
well, that's not true. We lost the hobby online.
I don't know about that. I don't know
wait,
about that.
okay, what's the drama with that? Because I've been out of loop from MK12. I don't really follow the game aside from Evo. But what
When
happened?
Sonic wins, hail to the king. When he loses, let's just say if it was PL that said this thing, Sonic said that they would throw him under the bus. It's okay when Sonic.
What tournament did
however,
this happen at?
Tom,
if
Tom has a
somebody
point
else,
here. Tom
if
has a
some
point here.
if somebody
Tom has a
else would have
point.
lost this tournament and said this, and let's say I don't know who won, but let's just hypothetically say Sonic loses, somebody else wins, and that person that lost said this. Let's say Kanamani, I don't know the reason. Let's say he lost. Same thing. They would be saying sour grapes. You got to adapt like the king of kings. There's a reason he always wins. He loses, like if you lose to Sonic Online and say it was on.
Okay, I want to retract my statement. Okay, this is true. I don't know how Sonic is now in MK12 because I don't follow the game, but I'm taking your guys' word. But from what I remember, Sonic from like, back then when I was playing, like during MKX, Injustice, MK9, he wasn't really known as the person that goes to a tournament venue and then complains or gets salty. Like he wasn't really like that. But what he says in this tweet is he says, like, I'm really not one to complain, but this is the worst tournament I've ever been to. And then in his next tweet, he says, I think that's the first time I've ever genuinely been pissed at an event, and it killed my momentum entirely. So it seems like this isn't just whatever crap happened. It seems like he's but it seems like he's very pissed off about how this tournament was run.
Also sounds, again, if it was anybody else, they would be considered salty that they lost. Blah, blah.
No, I get what you're saying, but is Sonic valid here for feeling this way? Like, is it true or is he over exaggerating?
Yeah. They've all been valid. They've all, how many times people have been criticized for, hey, why? And look, we've talked about this in tournaments before too, Rio. We've gone to tournaments in our day when they were charged $100 to walk in the door, and we're like, hey man, we can't hear any sound out of the headsets, and the stream setup is hella laggy. Oh, shut up, bitch. We didn't have you. You're lucky you even had any of them. And it's like, yeah, we were lucky when we paid $10 to walk in the door. We pay $100. So we expect the reason we pay $100. Carl, look, for what you want to say about PL, one thing he was justified on, he was one of the first people to say, you charged me $100 to walk in the door. And then this setup doesn't work right. This setup is unpatched. These headphones don't work. Why'd you charge me $100 for? What am I paying for? But anyone that complains about these things or the setups, the venue, how many times has Sonic won an event and somebody cries about the venue and the blah, 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 and it's salt and they're hating on the Fox and blah, blah, blah. This dude loses. And the worst, dude, Arslan Ash loses And he says things like this and that, salty bitch, blah, 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 blah. It happens. Sonic does. This is another reason why people don't like Sonic. Nothing to do with his preference or dressing like a furry or whatever it is. It's because when he wins, it is hail to the king. When he loses, must have been playing that 2XKO too much or whatever game at the time, right? Or whatever. And you don't think people have battled through bad venues? It's never an issue until Sonic loses. When Sonic loses, bro, the Pro Series in Florida, dude, people were telling me horror stories about that for Injustice 2. You know why it wasn't talked about? It was some nightclub on a Wednesday. It was not very enjoyable for the people that were there. Sonic wins, so nobody cares. But when he loses, oh man, dude, stop mid-set. Bro, this happens to people all the time. We just don't hear about it because it's not SonicFox. Dude, people lose online all the time with bad lag. We don't hear about it as much. Sonic loses one time to Javier online. Javier's happy. He posts a video about it. Sonic's like, hey, bitch, why you talking that shit? You know, blah, blah, blah. The connection, this and that. Bro, if anybody lost to Sonic online and said the connection, we would say, shut up, salty bitch. Sonic, dude, the dude is a great champion, but he cannot take a loss. And I'm not saying he's not justified in what he's saying. The point is, it's only a big deal because it's Sonic that's saying. If it was somebody else, it'd be sour grapes.
100% true. And also, I don't even want to discuss this topic because we don't have all the facts. I think the facts will come out after the tournament. But I generally agree that, you know, I mean, you guys already know how I feel about Perfect Legend. You guys already know, but 100% true. If Perfect Legend had said some of this stuff, people would want his head on a plate. People would take out their pitchforks and, you know, to completely destroy the guy. I think this is a conversation best saved for the next podcast because we don't all the we don't have all the facts, and we don't want to speculate. We don't want to assume. Because I genuinely believe you have to wait until all the information comes out.
Fair enough. So let me say this: as someone, and this may shock some people, as someone who hasn't been to an offline tournament since 2016, which is almost 10 years ago, why are tournaments now charging $100 venue fees? Like, am I going to Six Flags or am I going to play?
They become events, and it is a talking point that people are struggling to make rent these days, and tournaments fees are higher than ever. I guess you're paying for the production that they put on. I guess.
But at the very least, let's say I go to a tournament. Let's say I end up going to a tournament next year, right? 2026. I pay $100 venue fee. Am I going to be able to get casuals in or whatnot? Because I remember back then when I was going to tournaments, it was very hard to get casuals in because there were not many setups when we go to tournaments. There's only a few, and those were only for tournament matches.
Let me
Has
say
that at
this,
least changed?
Rio, if I may. Master D and I, who's my cousin, we were looking to possibly to go to Evo, right? Because he was on vacation in Germany, Croatia, whatever. When we were looking at the venue fee for Evo, I believe this was in like June or May, it was $300, everything combined. For that type of money, honestly, I'm just gonna say it, man. I'm gonna go to the beach in Cancun, look at some hot milfs, maybe get a drink on, maybe swim. Life is good, man. You know, why would I waste my money for a tournament in Vegas for that complete? What a joke! I mean, man, oh man, I don't want to reiterate our friends James MK talking points like about the esports, like about what a joke, man. Like, you want me to spend this much money? Laughable. Absolutely.
I agree.
And if you go,
well, that's why I'm
idiot.
asking. Why are they $100? Why is it $100 venue fee now?
If you go,
because I feel like if I'm going to go to a tournament, I'm paying that much. I expect the bare minimum, like, you know, places to get casuals in without having to wait in line. Streams. I mean, whenever I play, to the setups to not be laggy, because this is a huge issue. When I was playing back in 2016, you would play in a setup and it was like laggy. I was like, why am I going to an offline tournament to deal with seconds of delay?
are an issue anymore.
Yeah, I think that
that's-
they had to do back then with like the PS4s and whatnot. They weren't that. Yeah, the consoles were horrendous, but also not having audio at setups. All that stuff missing, and there were just so many problems. So I'm hoping now at the very least the whole tournament experience has leveled up and feels better, not only for the pro players, but if you're a casual entering game, it just feels better overall. But from what I'm hearing about this tournament, it seems like things have not gotten too much better.
I don't even know why this tournament is in Mexico. With all respect to Mexicans, I feel like the Brazilian scene, at least to my eye, has a much bigger scene. Going by,
you need a visa to go to Brazil. Mexico just a passport. To go to Brazil, you need a visa and a whole things to happen.
Like Tom said, I think maybe Tom has the better details, but it's just like Brazil, at least strictly referring to the game, has a bigger scene, has better venues. And I think people like Tom and Choni are right. Probably has to do with the cost. Maybe WB and NRS didn't want to spend the money on a country in which the venue was more expensive, yet obviously better for the players, better for the viewers, better for the overall experience of everybody. And again, unfortunately, I believe it comes down to the financial cost, unfortunately, and the complaints of this tournament might be justified.
I'm reading some
as a
tweets
result.
here. Final Kombat's quality issues are what happens when people in charge don't care anymore. But it could be worse. You guys could have had to pay to watch it. I guess joking on the Capcom that you were talking about, David.
Who tweeted this?
Yeah.
So Rio,
who tweeted this? One of the players there?
This was THTB. I'm reading stuff from.
Oh, my boy! Shout out to Rio. Just in case you don't know, apparently the next Capcom final event will be pay-per-view. How do you feel about that?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's got net esports now? Well,
Yeah.
it's bound to happen eventually, right?
Well, Capcom is going to charge you now for trying to watch their main event, apparently. We don't know to what extent, what cost, what channel, what, streaming service. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Well, wow, there must be a high demand to want to watch high level Street Fighter 6 then, because that's
No, there is no high demand. That's a complete joke.
Well, that's pretty crazy of Capcom to go that route then.
Well, I mean,
look, if it works, that's good for them. But me personally,
it will not work.
Yeah, I don't see how this is going to go over well unless whatever they're doing is going to be the production value is going to be amazing. It's going to blow everything away.
I have no idea. Anyway, I got to head out. It's 9:15. My kid has a Spanish test to study for. It's getting late. This is a topic I definitely want to revisit when we have all the facts, and then we can talk about the results. We don't do any spoilers. Dave hasn't seen it. I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't. I honestly forgot there was a tournament happening this weekend until you guys told me, and I got that message earlier from someone.
And I
honestly,
I saw, but Dave hasn't seen the results, so then obviously he'd know who won or lost them. So.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say honestly, Rio. At this point, I think it's okay to sign us off, and we will discuss this tournament in more detail on the next episode when we have more facts.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So, Tom, thank you so much for being on. Thank you as well, Dave, for being on, and also for you guys in the comments, for you guys that listen to this. I want to hear your opinion. What do you guys think? For those of you that did see the tournament, was it good production? Were there issues? Were things overblown? Were they better than people are saying? Like, how was the tournament matches and the balance and all that? Please let us know. Thank you guys for watching episode 40, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.